9 o'clock, folks. Let's go ahead and call a meeting order this morning. The first thing is devotion. District 2 has devotion.
Thank you, Mr. Cumbers. This pastor does not need no introduction. He's the ambassador for Christ. He's the director for United Way. He's the board pastor. I classify him as the board pastor because he comes all the time for us. I'd like to introduce to you Pastor T. McCovey.
Yeah.
Come on, T.
If my eyes were shut, I would have known who he was talking about.
Good. Hey, Mike, I have not been paid 1 cent for being their pastor, right? And as a pastor, you know, we like to pass that collection plate around. So I think I'm going to do that one board meeting. Just bring me a collection plate and start with Brian. We just bring it all
right here. Come on. I got you.
I hate to see what's going to be in that. You know, every time I come here, it's like just a little bit of the fabric of our society is torn, right? And as we saw this weekend with the floods in Texas, and there's just so much going on. And as a pastor, I get a lot of, people asking me, what are we supposed to do? And how do we handle all this stuff? We got political unrest, racial unrest, economic unrest. And so how do we handle all of that, right? And so I love going to the scripture, and that's my center, right? Regardless of what's going on around me. And I told the church yesterday, I said, we're surrounded by crocodiles and alligators and great white sharks, but God is still God. Right? And one of the things Jesus said that has stuck with me over the years, he said, if you want to be great, be a servant, right? Look for ways to be of service. And I've often told our church, I said, you don't get any credit if someone, in the middle of August, pass out in front of you going, water, water, and you give them some water. Right? We have to look for ways to be of service. And I tell you a story. I was at Walmart one day, and you know how we have our Walmart list, right? Which is more important than anything else in Walmart. And so when I got through shopping, I got in the car and I felt real good. I went down my list and got everything my wife told me to get. Right? Bam! I'm good to go. And then the small, still voice said, there's no telling how many people you stepped over that's on their way to hell that you didn't say anything to. You didn't witness to nobody. You didn't tell anybody about me. So, the next time I went into Walmart, I prayed before I got out of the car, and I said, Lord, just show me who you want me to witness to. Who needs a word of encouragement? And so this lady, and this was early one Sunday morning, I'm running in before church, and we crossed paths, and I said, good morning. And she goes, really? And I'm like, yeah. I said, what's going on? And she said, I've got just a little bit of money. I got 4 kids at the house that I don't know if I need to get like some weenies or beans and rice. And I'm like, hold up, time out. I said, you come to the right place. I said, go make groceries. And she was like, what? I said, go make groceries and meet me at register 6. And she was like, okay. So she went and go. We met at register 6. And it came out to like $68. Right? I can't tell you this person's name today, but when I see her, our eyes lock, and I go, you remember me? And she said, I'll never forget you. Right? And our church is on the other side of Walmart, and I'm telling her, I'm like, okay, you're always welcome. And then she'll say, I know I need to go to church. Right? But that's not the time for me to condemn her. That's the time for me to encourage her. Okay, one day you're coming. Right? So I guess that's our message this morning, is to make sure that we are being of service in our community. And as the president and CEO of United Way, when we help people, see, I don't get credit for that. And as a pastor, doing things in the church and we do outreach, I don't get credit for that. It's on my own time that God said, that time belongs to me as well. That's when I need you to help somebody. And then we all need to take an inventory of our life. Who in your life that you are helping? Right? And you always need to have that success story in your back pocket. You know, I got a guy, Thomas, right now. Thomas been homeless for probably 10, 12 years. So he's that guy for me now. He showed up at United Way, and he's like, I need some help. And so for the last 2 weeks, we've been working with Open Doors Homeless Coalition to get him housed. And he's ready this time. He stopped using drugs, he stopped drinking. Addiction is no longer, has this control over his life. Right? But those are the type of things that I'm looking at. Now there's a lot of different things we can look at, right? But the scripture talks about, the Apostle Paul said this, I'm fixing my eyes on things in front of me, and I'm forgetting those things that are behind me. Amen? Well, let us pray. Father God, we thank you again for another blessed day. We give you glory and honor and praise for who you are, Lord. You're such an awesome God. You're such a mighty God, declaring the end from the beginning before the story is even told. Lord, we lift up those that have been affected by the floods in Texas, Lord God. We lift up all the first responders, Lord God. And Lord, we have a special blessing for those that are finding bodies, Lord God. We pray, Lord, that image will not have a lasting effect on their consciousness, Lord. For you said in your word, Lord, without you we can do nothing. And Lord, we thank you, we love you, because you first demonstrated your love for us, that while we were yet in our sins, you sent your Son to die a cruel death on the cross for us. And Lord Jesus, we will never, ever forget what you have done for us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
sir.
Chief. Let's stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That brings us down to amendments to the agenda. I do not have any. Mr. Morris?
I do not have any.
Mr. Taylor?
I have none.
Mr. Ross?
I have two. One is a discussion item about combining lighting districts in the St. Martin area. And then the other would be an update of the 211 status for the project in Cedar Grove to help alleviate the flooding around the Lawton area.
Very good. Mr. Beausarge?
None.
Mr. Eldridge?
No.
Mr. Fulton?
No, sir.
Mr. O'Neill?
None.
Mr. Calmer?
I was going to say none, but Mr. Eldridge, did we have one to establish a new bank account?
Yeah, I'm trying to get that resolution from April, so. Oh, you've already got the resolution?
I've got a resolution in the file.
Okay, well, then you got one.
Okay, so we'll amend to ratify the opening of a new bank account, or to?
Yes, to ratify the opening of a bank account for South Mississippi Mental Health Center.
Okay.
That it, Mr. Calmer?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry, yes.
That's good. Are there any others? Anyone else? All right, I'll accept the order approving the amendments to the agenda.
I move.
Motion by Mr. Taylor and a second by Mr. Morris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That brings us down to general public comments. Is there anyone here for general public comments? Come on forward. I believe I recognize you.
Hi, good morning.
Whole
Amanda
public defender
Gale.
staff, what did we do?
Yes. Well, we came to thank y'all personally for the purchase of our building, and tell y'all how grateful we are and how much we are enjoying it. We feel right at home, and we are very happy and very comfortable. And we just want to come personally thank y'all.
It's a long time. It should have been done a long time ago.
Thank
Yep,
you.
long
But
overdue.
We are
It
very
should-
grateful and we enjoy it.
We're good.
And to add on, the need of that was far past where it needed to be, because, I mean, y'all were in a building that got wet, had all kinds of problems, so, I mean, we're glad
Yes,
that we were
yes,
able to
sir.
help with that.
And so we are very,
Josh and Brian were able to figure out how to make it work, so.
yes, and so we greatly appreciate it.
Thank y'all. Keep
Thank
it up. I know
y'all.
you got a heavy caseload.
And y'all come see us anytime y'all want to.
Y'all have a good day. Is there anyone else for general public comments?
If nobody else has anything, I have something for public comment. So, a couple of meetings ago, a question was raised about the dirt that's being removed from the Beachview project and being stored somewhere else. And I just want to clarify that I have all the official paperwork here. to show that the contractor is responsible for removing that dirt, and whatever he does with it is in his contract. He's free to do whatever he wants to with it. So I have a copy of that contract and the plans where it says that on there. So if anybody wants to see that, I have it right here. So there's no shenanigans going on there, okay, like I've been accused of, and I don't appreciate it. So all the paperwork's here.
Yeah, that's correct. The resolution, I've got a copy of the resolution that this board passed August 19, 2024. And I spoke to Mr. O'Neill to verify that we're all on the same page, we're reading it correctly. It looks pretty clear to me that that dirt does belong per the contract to the contractor, which I think is relatively standard in these contracts that we enter into. That's part of the bidding process. They bid on it that way, and it's pretty clear.
Hey, and Joe, can I ask you a question? Yes, sir. So the reason why we're having to redo the road base there is because there was never a road base, correct?
They look like they took whatever material they dug out of ditches and built a road.
Well, and that was before the county had any road specifications in any kind of development. Gulf Park Estates was developed when the county had no road specifications, correct?
It appears that way.
Yeah, and Marcus, and at that time, they didn't have any subdivision zoning requirements that they had to go through either, if I remember correctly.
Or when they,
Yeah, so that subdivision was built before this county ever had any regulations for zoning or road building. So anything we do in there, we have to start from scratch. And if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right the first time. I ain't coming back and redoing it again. So that's the reason why that road is being rebuilt like it is, because it was never built correctly in the first place. So, thank y'all.
And a good one to back that up, like if y'all drive to Jackson very often, you remember that section south of Jackson on 49 that was constructed for like my entire life? A lot of that was because they didn't muck it out, like what he's saying, dig up all that subpar material deep enough. And that's why that project lasted forever, because they started having weak points and it would collapse and it didn't work. Well, here on this one, they mucked it out to a level deep enough, and at that point, the contractor owns the dirt and it's their job to dispose of it. If they find a cheaper way to get rid of it, then that's what they're doing.
It's up to them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else for general public comments?
Yeah, I got one on when you're talking about road work, on Beachview. As you're widening on down, once you cross the bayou at 11th Street, that's the cut through. Nobody goes down to Point of Shame because it's too freaking curvy, unless y'all can be Paul Bunyan and straighten all them curves out. That's really where the widening needs to end, but you need a turn lane there, not a one either way. You need a dedicated turn lane, because that is where everybody cuts through, because it's a straight shot to Point of Shame and you miss all those curves. So that's something you need to think about as you're moving forward down Beachview.
There's some future plans for all that. It's just not gonna stop with Beachview. There is some future plans to spread out, so to say, to make it, to make the egress and ingress a whole lot easier for.
Everybody that cuts through to St. Andrews and all, that's where they go. They don't go to Point of Shame. It's just too freaking curvy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. All right, that brings us down to consent agenda. Could I get a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Ross. Second by Mr. Beausarge. All those in favor say aye. Aye. And opposed, no. All right, that brings us down to an item 8, which is not till 10 o'clock, so we're just going to skip over it for now. Brings us down to action items, have state and federal issues.
I'll just be brief on this.
Yeah. Department.
Oh, I did. Hold on. Brian, let me back up.
All right.
Finance, Ms. Wells, come on up. I apologize. I looked over you.
Good morning. The first item I have is the order approving the claims docket.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
I have a second by Mr. Morris. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Okay, second item I have is the resolution authorizing the interfund loans for fiscal year September 30th, 2025.
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Bossarge. A second by Mr. Morris. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Okay, last item I have is the resolution authorizing the operating transfers for fiscal year September 30th, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Morris. I'll second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Barnett, inventory.
Yes, good morning. I have a resolution authorizing removal of a sidearm from inventory due to the retirement of Captain Tracy Roxanne Wilson.
Second.
Have a motion by Mr. Bossarge, a second by Mr. Ross. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Marcus, planning.
Good morning. The item I have are planning recommendations for June. Planning Commission recommendations.
So moved.
Okay. Have a motion by Mr. Bossarge, second by Mr. Morris. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. I heard something else squeak by the time
Me
you.
too. Thank you.
It threw me off. Thank you, Marcus. Now that brings us down to a planning appeal, which doesn't take place till 10 o'clock, so we'll skip over it and come on down to action items.
Nothing really on state issues this time, but on federal issues, as you probably know, our president signed the big bill that he had been pushing for on the 4th of July, and there's a lot of information in there, including changes to Medicaid and other things. I spoke with Manny McPhillips, our lobbyist, and he's going to make a summary of the bill, and I'll distribute that to y'all between now and the next meeting. And if there are certain items on there that we need to discuss, we'll bring that back before the board.
He's not going to send all 900 pages, is he?
No.
It'll take him a little while to read that.
Yeah.
There's a lot to it, so.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you, Brian. That brings us down to supervisor items. I didn't have anything. Mr. Morris?
Didn't have anything.
Mr. Taylor? No, sir. Mr. Ross?
All right, yeah, the first one, I know we've got all the road improvements on 609 coming, and it's going to include lighting. We've got a lot of areas in St. Martin that have developed far faster than what anyone would have expected, and now we've got lighting needs on Lemoyne and other areas too. And with all that coming, I think it would be good with, Mr. Bossarge has used the ability to combine lighting districts in the Gulf Park Estates and St. Andrews area. I think that opened the door for us to start looking at including that whole area and maybe drawing out a map of who all's included. And we've got some that exist already, Gulf Hills, Windsorport, triple lighting.
Right.
So those folks are already in a lighting district, and it will probably make their bill go down. I don't want to say that's a certainty, but I mean, it very likely could by including more membership and more businesses. Because I think lighting 609 by itself is about $27,000 a month.
Right.
And so it's going to have to fall into some type of way, a method to pay for that.
And it benefits the whole area. And Joe and I had this conversation last week, and we can work on try to draw up where the district boundaries would be for a lighting district like that.
Mallet Road's going to need it, so.
I was going to say, I'd like to get it on Mallet Road and North Tucker.
Can we, supervisor boundaries don't have any impact on where a lighting district boundaries can be, do they?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so we would just have to share appointments or like by district that way, okay.
North Tucker to at least Jim Ramsey needs to be lit up, and then McClellan and Mallet Road. Yeah.
And we had talked about having kind of a narrow district along the corridor, but I think it's probably more beneficial to draw a bigger district, try to combine some and just light the area.
I mean, I'll say that I have calls from folks, and the numbers are growing of people that think areas need to be lit, and it's because you've got 25 to 28,000 people living in an unincorporated area. I mean, I expect that. I mean, you're going to have that need, and with more traffic, you need to be better lit. I mean, I've been on Lemoyne Boulevard at night and barely caught someone's shirt and saw that they were on the side of the road riding a bike. I mean, so lighting is going to be a big deal out there. So I think we need to go ahead and start taking the steps to combining those lighting districts and expanding them.
We've actually had some fatal accidents out there at night too.
So, yeah, let us work together and try to put together a map, and we'll bring it to y'all and let you look at it.
All right, and then, Mr. Hosey? Could you update us on you and I talked about it with, we've had a little bit of rain over the past couple weeks. So we've had some flooding, and I just wanted to get an update about the topic we talked about in that Cedar Grove area.
So yes, we do have an active project in the Cedar Grove neighborhood. The one that I'm working on is kind of just east of Reston Drive, because Reston goes due north right off of Big Ridge Road, and there's a few side streets off of Reston that those houses, as far as I know, the houses don't actually flood there, but the roadways definitely have it real bad, and it's definitely an ongoing problem. We started a 219 project. There's funding available to the county for water, sewer, and now stormwater infrastructure through the 219 section, and it's a partnership with the Army Corps. They are responsible for hiring out the design and construction of it, and then the county is responsible for doing all the land acquisition. We've been working on it for probably at least a year now, and we are really close to having all the land acquisition complete. I think I've got a meeting this week with the main property owner to finalize the negotiation for getting their property, where the majority of a detention pond would be built, because there's a ditch running kind of parallel to Reston Drive, and then it crosses over just south of the interstate, and then eventually does go through a box culvert underneath the interstate to the north. And that box culvert under the interstate is a choking point for the flow. I think it was just, built when there was less development there, but now as things have grown up, it's a little bit undersized. Back in 2009, there was a drainage study done by Neil Schaefer that identified that was the problem there, and enlarging that box culvert was one option, but we all know that that's not likely feasible, considering, that it's going underneath the interstate. So they said, a detention pond south of the interstate to give the water a chance to pond up and store, to then slowly go underneath the interstate is probably the best solution that we can do there. So that's what we're in the process of doing. Like I said, I hope to have all the property within the county's name, hopefully in about a month or so. There is some easements and property we need from Singing River Electric Company that is right along that ditch as well. We're having to go through several partial release forms because they have a big loan with the federal government that they have to sign off on anything when they grant land to somebody else. But that's all starting to wrap up too. Just a few weeks ago, I got a update from Singing River Electric that all the federal agencies had signed everything, but that they still needed to do some recording paperwork still. So yeah, I hope, like I said, once we have all the land, the Army Corps is going to move straight into design. I think they're wanting to do this as a design build project, so we could be getting into construction, pretty quickly once it is designed. I don't have an accurate time on that, but I'm estimating that sometime like spring, maybe winter or spring coming up is about when the design should be close to being complete, and we'll have a better idea when construction can start then.
So when the drainage became a problem is what we've all pretty much, when they did that 4-lane project of I-10 through Jackson County, that's what caused it to start backing up. And then over time, more development has caused more water to get dumped in that same spot.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, the box culvert was, I think, installed there when the interstate was first
I-10,
built.
like 80 or 81, 82, 83?
Yeah.
Okay. Late 70s?
Yeah.
In that area.
That area.
Do you have on there when we started trying to get this project taken up as a 219? What year did we start doing that? I didn't ask you that.
It was, I think, around 2019 and 2020 is when we started initiating our first few 219s. This wasn't the first one we did. I think we started Shamrock and Tantalon first, and then this was the second one. So it may have been 2022 is I get my best guess off the top of my head about when we started it. And yeah, I wish these things would go faster, but it's notoriously slow when we're working with the Army Corps. They're contributing 65% of the funding for design and construction, and so we're contributing the balance of that, the 35%, plus all the land acquisition costs.
What is the estimated total cost?
I don't have an accurate number for that on top of my head either, but I mean, I would say in the ballpark of at least a couple million, probably, total construction cost. So yeah.
Yes.
We need to utilize it because it's funding dedicated to Jackson County, but I think we haven't started any other 219 projects until we get these first few that we've started on closer to construction. It's a great program, but I think we probably just need to be a little bit more strategic about exactly which projects we select to go into them.
Well, I know whenever I saw the projects, the 219 show up, the originals in that 1920, somewhere in that period, that's when I was like, well, this project in Cedar Grove has been one that I've gotten a lot of calls about and heard a lot about. So I was like, sounds like a good way for me to get this project pushed through, because I didn't know if we were going to get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
So I grabbed a hold of that, and I think I may have jammed it into the 219 bucket, which may have filled the bucket up to capacity. And now we're seeing that it takes longer.
Right.
But it's still going to get done, and it looks like we at least can see the end now.
Oh yeah.
And you've done a great job getting everything together and keeping all this straight and working with these properties.
And I do want to, we haven't done it yet, but I think once we do get the land acquisition complete and it is fully within our name and it looks like we do have a pretty clear path forward of the project, I would like to have some form of a public meeting just to let everybody know, what the project idea is and, loose timeline and who's involved with it.
Something we could send out as like a communication to residents in that area?
We could just write a letter and send it out and explain it.
Because I think, some of these folks said it's been going on for 40 plus years, which it adds up, 1980-ish to now. I mean, I'm 46. I was born in 1978, so this flooding started around the time I was born. So, I mean, I can understand that's a long, long time. So I think what's happening is these folks hear me say, yeah, we're doing it. It's 219. And they're like, yeah, he's throwing it. He's kicking the can down the road, getting rid of the responsibility on himself and blaming the Army Corps. And I just want to give them something they can look at that has Army Corps letterhead or our letterhead that says what we're doing and where it is. Whether it's handing it out there or mailing it to them or an email, whatever the method is determined to be.
Yeah. I think probably just a hard copy letter in the mail is a good way to start, and then we could have further meetings if we get we can give people a chance to respond to those too and ask questions directly to me, and then just depending on the response we could set up a full-fledged public meeting too if we need to. So.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just real quick before I leave, I wanted to take this chance to introduce my new hire, the engineer technician, Juliana Heiss, has started with me last week. So I'm looking forward to having some good help in the office and hopefully get even more projects done. So, and she's been
we have one more 219 now, huh?
Yeah. She's been a great help so far. So.
She didn't work for Wagner, did she?
No. She.
I don't think Joe would like it too much if we kept poaching people from him. We've gotten a lot of good out of Wagner over the years for sure. But no, Juliana worked for Cypress Environmental Infrastructure, another good team for us. So
All right. Thank you, Matthew.
Thank you, Matthew.
Anything else, Mr. Ross?
No.
Mr. Bossard, you have?
Nothing.
All right. All right, that brings us down to closed session. What we're probably going to do is go into closed session, then we'll come back at 10 o'clock for the rezoning appeal at 10 o'clock. But
Yeah, Mr. Cummings, if I could go over these items that we're
Yeah, go ahead.
going to discuss in closed session to decide whether we're going to go into executive session. We got a potential litigation with regard to the Pascagoula annexation, pending litigation, the Coleman versus Jackson County lawsuit, pending litigation, Jackson County versus George County. We got a discussion regarding relocation or expansion of the business in Pascagoula, discussion regarding prospective business decisions of Singing River Hospital, discussion regarding the location or relocation of the business in Moss Point, which may involve the prospective purchase of land. And I've got a personnel issue to discuss. Mr. Fulton has potential location of a business in Moss Point, as well as potential location of another business in Moss Point. Mr. O'Neill has a discussion regarding a prospective purchase of land. So those are things we'll discuss in closed session to decide whether we want to go into executive session.
we should have got started at 7:30.
We might need to start we might need to start an export lawyer program or something.
It's a busy one today.
Could I get a motion to enter into closed session for those items?
So moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Morris,
Second.
second by Mr. Ross. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. All right. If y'all would, as I said, we'll be back at 10 o'clock for the zoning appeal.
Okay, this takes.
Sounds good. All right, up next, we have the rezoning appeal. It's rezone, it's -0-2025-00039. And Marcus, I'm gonna let you take it from there.
Okay. On April the 16th, the Planning Commission heard the application of Gulf Coast Development and Design. This was an application to rezone parcels of property on the Old Fort Bayou Road from A1 General Agriculture to R1 Single Family Residential. The property is 109 acres in size. Some of the property is located in flood zone. The Planning Commission voted 5-2 to approve the zone change, and John Claxton and Lori Claxton filled out the application for appeal, and I believe Robert Odell is their attorney. I think he's gonna lead the charge here. I'll put it up. Y'all have a copy of the appeal packet. You don't need to see anything up here, correct?
All right, go ahead and put that in, Marcus. And before we get started, I got some comments that Mr. Comer would like to make before you get started. Give us just a minute.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cummings. Yeah, just for the sake of the board and for the sake of the audience and the participants, I kind of wanted to go over what the standard was, the legal standard was for rezoning, and I reprinted this morning the Marcellus decision, if you remember, that came from the Court of Appeals a couple of years ago when there was the denial of a rezone on Lemoyne Boulevard for a corner piece of property, and that went on up to appeal, and the Court of Appeals, I thought, wrote a pretty good decision. And let me just read just a few things, and you can think about this as you hear the presentation for and against. There's just a few highlights of that case. When a resident is seeking a rezoning classification, the applicants must show by clear and convincing evidence. So the proof to rezone has to be clear and convincing of either a mistake in the original zoning, I don't think that's what we have here, or that the character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent to justify rezoning. And in addition, the applicant must show that a public need exists. The rezoning tribunal, the board, has a responsibility, you guys, to act in the public interest. You may draw upon your knowledge of the community and the area as well as the applicant's proof. So what your knowledge of the area is does play a role. The courts have said it's impossible to articulate or design a particular test for determining what is sufficient evidence to show a material change and a public need to support rezoning. But the courts also held to support on appeal a zone reclassification. The record should, if you're going to rezone, at a minimum contain the following: a map showing the circumstances of the area, the changes in the neighborhood, statistics showing the public need, and such further matters of proof so that a rational informed judgment may be formed as to what the governing board considered. And then finally, the court said that substantial weight may be given to the concerns of the citizenry in determining whether a public need exists. In Marcellus, there were some opponents that came up and spoke against that, and the court said that's fine to take into consideration those that are opposing it. And at the end of the day, the court, the appellate court, the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, is going to uphold your decision, whatever decision you may make, if it's fairly debatable. In other words, if reasonable minds can differ as to what you should do, then the Court of Appeals is typically going to uphold what you do. So that's kind of a recitation of the law. That, you know, Marcus puts that in all these packets as to what the standard is to support a rezoning, and that's just kind of a little bit of an expansion from that Marcellus decision on what the legal standard is.
You know, the big thing, that changing the character of a neighborhood, and that's always one of the big things. But no court, in any opinion, have they ever said a neighborhood and kind of defined how far out a neighborhood spans? Or is it still at the discretion of our board and the people involved in the debate in the planning department? There's no real 5 miles as a neighborhood or 2 miles as a neighborhood.
Right. I think those are the type of things that the planning board and the board of supervisors take into consideration. And there was a case that kind of came out that gave y'all the discretion as to what the neighborhood is. You know, what does the neighborhood look like? How far do you go out and look to see what the neighborhood is? Those are all those type of decisions that the planning commission and the board of supervisors makes after reviewing all the evidence.
That is correct. It says when the character of the neighborhood, that the character of the neighborhood has changed, and that leaves it up to the planning board and then the board of supervisors to make that decision on what the neighborhood area is. So I think, Mr. Odell? Emily?
Jimmy, was that all you had?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Good morning.
What was your name again?
My name is Robert Odell.
Okay, thank you, Robert.
I'm representing the appellants. I will have as an assistant Emily Terrio, who will do the PowerPoint when I get to that. First thing is, are there any recusals from the board members for interest in this outcome of this matter?
No, sir.
Well, we would like to interpose an objection on the record to Mr. Combust sitting in this matter. It's my understanding that he has a relationship, he's a cousin to a realtor that's involved in the matter, and that he has some business and other relationships with Mr. Combust.
Discussed that with our attorney. You know, I'm kin to him. We're cousins, there's no doubt about that. My family's been in this county since the late 1700s, and I'm probably kin to some of these folks out here. I'm kin to a lot of folks, and we're all just trying to make a living. But I have no financial interest in this whatsoever, so Mr. Comer felt like I was okay to sit in, so I'm going to stay.
And I think that, Mr. Odell, I think that ultimately is Mr. Cummins' call on that. He has no financial tie, financial interest one way or another, regardless of what occurs on this. So I left that up to Mr. Cumbus in his discretion.
Mm-hmm. All right. Once again, I represent John and Laurie Claxton. And as I said, Emily Terrio will help with the presentation. Also have additional counsel, Savannah Cholet, who will speak more towards the neighborhood as a whole than I do. I represent the Claxtons primarily. All right, we've made some additions to the package and record. They're posted, and I guess y'all will have, y'all have a screen up there. You can see them on. Good. They are.
One question, just for, I hate to interrupt you, but if Mr. Odell, if you have other things you want to introduce us, please get them into the record. Or if anybody for or against wants to add something to the record other than the packet that's been provided to the supervisors already, just so it'll all be there.
Okay. That's what. The only thing they have is their PowerPoint, what they have here on this flash drive, and we'll put the flash drive in the record.
Okay.
There are also 4 maps. There is the existing zoning, existing land use, future land use, and there is a neighborhood map that's on an aerial that I want to use, and those are also included. Those have also been uploaded to the record, as I understand, and the Jackson County zoning ordinance has been uploaded to the record.
As long as they're in the record, that's good.
Those are our additions. Thank you.
Just want to make sure. Yep.
Yes, good.
Okay.
Thank you. That's
yes,
good.
Sir.
Good that we do that. All right. The additions that we made, as I said, include the photo album and a description of properties which touch on the boundaries of the 110-acre tract for the proposed zoning. We've added 4 maps for the general area. Those are the present. I just went over those. The present zoning map is May 2025, and the existing land use and future land use maps are dated 2022. And I'll also discuss later the map showing the agriculturally zoned subdivisions in the general area. As you can see, there are a lot of people here. But we are concerned that some property owners who abut and or definitely within 500 feet of the petitioning tract did not receive notice of one or more of the hearings. Emily Terrio did not get notice. She's real close, touches on the south margin of the property. Darren Malazzo, who is the treasurer and person that receives mail from Antioch Church, told me, I believe he's here, that he did not receive any notice. Nancy and Mason Furr at 10017 Old Fort Bayou received only blank papers for the Planning Commission hearing. There may be others that can tell you about the lack of receipt of the notice of a petition for rezoning. I doubt that there is anyone in the neighborhood at this point in time who does not know about it, who hasn't learned about it. The entire neighborhood is very upset about it. Today, you are presented with the prospect of a long-term, stable rural Jackson County neighborhood being suddenly and dramatically changed by imposition of outside economic forces, we'll call them. As you can see, there can be no mistake of the fact that the character of the neighborhood in which this rezoning is proposed is large tract country living. That was its character when it was first zoned in 1970, and that remains its character today. Next year will mark the 100th anniversary of the Village of Euclid versus Amber Realty case, in which the United States Supreme Court upheld the validity of zoning as a social construct and contract in the United States. The bargain is that what people give up in ability to use their land in any way of their choosing is more than made up for by protections that they're guaranteed. Foremost among those protections is that they will not have to suffer adverse impacts to their land, to their use, enjoyment, and value of their property from non-compatible uses of neighboring land. Probably the number one issue that is carefully dealt with under any zoning ordinance is requests for rezoning. Rezonings are justified and allowed only upon limited circumstances, has already been covered. Our Jackson County ordinance, and this is at section 9.15, limits zoning changes to properties for which A, there was a mistake in the original zoning classification of the land, or where B, quote, the character of the neighborhood has changed to such an extent as to justify rezoning, close quote. For either A or B, there is the additional requirement of public need for rezoning. Obviously, public need for the type of zone property requested is irrelevant under the ordinance until either a mistake in the original zoning or sufficient justifying change in the neighborhood is proven. Furthermore, any findings of change of the character of the neighborhood must be proven by clear and convincing evidence, and the burden of proof lies entirely with the petitioner for rezoning. Specifically here, there is no claim of mistake in the original zoning. So the only issue presented is whether or not there has been such a change in the character of the neighborhood so as to justify the proposed rezoning. I've noticed from review of the record thus far that there's been a lead with need. All of the need in the world is irrelevant to the requested rezoning. A change in the neighborhood so as to justify rezoning to the requested classification is not proven by the applicant by clear and convincing evidence. As I am sure you're aware, you as a board are charged with the duty of protecting the sanctity of the Jackson County zoning ordinance and citizens' reliance upon it to protect their interest in their property. In the context of this hearing, what is a neighborhood? I'll use the definitions provided by the petitioner as included in your package at page 17. This is reading from their description. A neighborhood is a geographically localized community within a city, town, suburb, or rural area. Neighborhoods are often social communities with considerable face-to-face interaction among members. Quote, neighborhood is generally defined spatially as specific geographic area and functionally as a set of social networks. Neighborhoods then are spatial units in which face-to-face social interactions occur. The personal settings and situations where residents seek to realize common values, socialize youth, and maintain effective social control. In effect, your neighborhood is what you see through the, close of what they used. In effect, your neighborhood is what you see through your windows and at the extremes of your property and in your interactions with your neighbors. The nature of the Fort Bayou Antioch neighborhood is quiet, quaint, rural living on large tracts where homes share the land with farm animals. It is the commensurate county estate neighborhood where tract sizes value from 1.56 acres, and there's only one that small, to 120 acres. There are two of that size. Nearly all of the residents of the neighborhood have lived there for many years or for most of their lives. Properties seldom change hands except upon death of the owners. It's not an area of change or where there has been much of any change over the past 5 decades. And at this point, I will ask Emily to take you through the photo album of properties that touch upon, these are only those that touch and adjacent to the proposed rezoning tract.
Please, wait a minute, you have my tape recorder.
Hi, everyone. As he already said, these are just the properties that actually touch the property up for rezoning. And first we have Antioch Road. This is just the cover photo. It's beautiful. It looks like a stock photo that you'd find online of some other place, but it's our road and it's our neighborhood. And a lot of the oak trees there are 300, 400 years old oak trees. We're gonna go counterclockwise around the property. So I'm the first property. It'll come to the side of me and behind me. I have 10 acres. I was actually raised next door at my parents' house for 20 years, and then a year ago I bought this property, and I haven't put farm animals on it yet, but that is my plan. At that top picture, the road for the subdivision would be right behind my shed there, and then at the bottom right picture, that is where the back side of my property where the subdivision would be. I also received no notice of the Planning Commission meeting or this meeting. And I'm not on the list either. The next property is the Path residence. He is 91 years old, and he's lived here for 42 years. He has, he's had donkeys there. He has a donkey named Eon that's back there. The subdivision would be at the back behind this donkey, and he's just been there a long time. And he has beautiful oak trees as well. And you'll notice that a lot of these residences are 5, I think there's one residence that's 3 acres. Most of them are 5 up to 120. This is the Fur residence. She has chickens, goats. Her husband has lived here his entire life. He's 67, and since he was a baby, he has lived on Old Fort Bayou on this land. They also received no notice. She said just a blank piece of paper is what came in the mail to her. But they have 5 acres there, and they've been there together since the 40s. The Eleuteris residence, they have 15 acres. It's been family land since 1974. Chris's father is buried on the property. He's 54 years old, and they have a chicken coop, and this land has been used for family farmland as well. The Martin residence, this is where we start to get to Antioch Road. She's been there for 25 years. It's 5 acres. This would be where the entrance and exit is. If you look at that top picture, on the side of her is where they want to put the entrance and exit. I don't know if they still want to do that, but no matter what, these residences on Antioch, it will be behind their homes, even if there isn't a road right there. She's 74 years old. The Pilot residence, this is 5 acres. They've lived on this property for 40 years. This is the other side of where the road would be, and also behind the residence. And in that top picture, that property line is where you'd see the development. The Gavin residence, 5 acres. They've lived at this property since 1998.
They're in their 60s. They have a chicken coop and a catfish pond on the property. And the top picture is the back of their property is where you would see the development. Lawrence Chin, 5 acres. They've lived here 23 years. She's 71 years old. The bottom picture, that is where the development would be at the end of her property. Antioch Baptist Church, it's 150 years old, established in the year 1899. They also said they did not receive a notice. The church did not. Darren Malazzo is the caretaker of this church, and he's lived here for 40 years on Old Fort Bayou on the corner by this church, and his wife has been here since the 30s. The Beausarge residents, they're a newer family that's lived here. They've just been here the last 3 months, and they didn't receive a notice of rezoning. I can kind of see where this might be borderline. They might have, from the tax records, not be included for that reason, for the notice of rezoning. But there's still other people that didn't get one as well. And they're the smallest property that touches it, 3 acres. Martin residents, this is 120 acres. This is completely undeveloped land. This land has never changed or been lived on. And Alice Martin, she's the owner of it now, her father bought it 80 years ago. It has had no change. And the Stotler residents, they own 60 acres. They've been here since 1993. Mr. Stotler is buried on the property, and Miss Stotler will also be buried there. They actually have plans for 8 family members to be buried in their mausoleum. I know it's kind of hard to see, but the top right picture is, oh, sorry. The top right upper hand picture is the mausoleum. Miss Stotler is 68. There's a natural waterfall and horses on this property. And I'll let Mr. Odell get into the maps.
Thank you, Emily. And by the way, the last two, that started on the east side and went all the way around to the west side. The last two, the Martin and Stotler properties, are on the west side of the proposed rezoning tract. To the south side, that was not covered. That's wetlands and Old Fort Bayou. That's the creek. Very low down there.
Do y'all have a picture that shows like the diameter of that from like the center of the development to show how far out each direction we just went? Taking that tour around the property.
Yeah.
So we have something that shows how big that is? Okay, all right.
That, and she gave the acreages of each and every tract, so they are that size.
That PowerPoint was really good. And as a last picture, if you'd have put a circle that had like a center point and how many miles out, that would have been.
As we said, we limited those properties that she discussed thus far. That's not the neighborhood as a whole, but those are touching. So we did stick to that.
A lot of those tree line is where the development is. So that's where it starts.
When y'all talk and he talks, she can't take it down. Just strictly the person up to microphones, one needs to be speaking. So, would y'all like to see the map? And we'll give you time to come up.
All right. Please allow me to supplement the photo gallery of adjoining properties with description of other properties in the immediate area. If you're headed south on Old Fort Bayou, when you reach Antioch Road, there is a large tract, that's 80 acres, on the east side, owned by George Payne. He farms and raises cattle there. Also on the east side are other agricultural residential houses north of Payne's property. One is the Stokes family, which owns 120 acres. They have been there since 1966. It's a large family that all live there. Lisa Stokes lives in the original farmhouse built in 1933. On the west side of Old Fort Bayou, there are other properties in addition to those that you were shown on the PowerPoint that do not abut on the property, but are in between Old Fort Bayou and the properties described. Starting at the corner of Antioch are several residential properties having lot sizes. The very smallest one is 1.56 acres. Then there's one of 5 acres, one of 15 acres, one of 13.5, and the like. There are about 10 of those. There's a good number of them. Lots of farm animals are raised there. One such property is that of Dale and Wanda Humphrey, which is at 10215 Old Fort Bayou Road. It is 5 acres. They raise chickens and have a catfish pond. A pasture in front of the fur property, which was one Emily covered, is used for grazing goats, basically the overflow from the other property, the furs on the goats. When we go back and turn west on Antioch, headed toward the church, where we see a similar character on the north side to that already covered on the south side by Emily, but even more heavily agricultural, as they're just farmhouses and horse pasture all the way down past the church. The property to the north of Antioch is owned by Dr. Ivy, as I understand. His family has been there about 25 years. Several members of the family live in the various farmhouses there, and they raise and pasture horses. The location for which this zoning change is proposed is surely one of the least changed areas of Jackson County. It's not by any means an area where there has been change so as to justify a rezoning all the way down from A1 to R1. Skipping the less dense development classifications of A1 and A2 so as to allow houses to be packed in on densities of 4.5 per acre. It would be the allowance of such a zone change that would change the character of this neighborhood, much to the detriment of the current residents. Approval of the proposed application for rezoning of 110 acres of agriculturally zoned land in this location would surely constitute a spot zoning. Spot zoning is generally defined as rezoning that creates an island of different use within a larger area of less intense use. The Mississippi Supreme Court has held that such amendments favoring one landowner may be considered arbitrary and capricious and therefore invalid where they are not supported by significant evidence of change in the character of the affected neighborhood and they're being consistent with the comprehensive plan. At this point, I want to use these maps. The first one, the one that's up right now, I have, maybe Emily can scroll through the rest of them, is the existing land use. That shows the area as agricultural and residential agricultural. The area of the proposed rezoning is just below the center here, and the green on the map is agricultural and the yellow is residential agricultural, which is the same thing as residential estate or A1. Can we go to the next map? This is the existing land use. Okay, here's the future land use map. This was also done in 2022. Please note it's the same. The county has a comprehensive plan. It has a future land use map. There's nothing on this map that shows plans for future development of A1 property in this area. To the contrary, it shows it is residential estate. It shows it is residential agricultural. So that is the comprehensive plan for the area. Move to the next one, Emily. You just stay with me up here. Click on it. Okay. All right, this next map that I've called up is the existing zoning map. And all of the white area here, well, the green area is Sandhill Crane Refuge, public lands. All of the white area is A1 zoned. And of course, our tract is, I think you can locate it, it's right before the bend, right at the bottom of the bend and going up past the center of the map is the area, the neighborhood for this proposed rezoning, all of which is zoned A1 and all of the surrounding property. The only thing that's different is this Osprey single-family subdivision, single-family rezoning that was granted, I think, in 2012, sometime a while back. All right, we got another map that, all right, this one shows subdivisions in the area. Now, the blue at the bottom center is the Terrio and Claxton homes, they're highlighted on here, or properties. And the proposed rezoning would be to the south and west of that and north. All of these subdivisions shown on this map, well, these 12 subdivisions, these are subdivisions in Jackson County that have been approved and houses built, they're mostly built out. There's not a single one of those that's zoned A1. Excuse me, that's zoned R1. They are all zoned either A1, or there are two that are zoned A2, and those are, lost my track a little bit here. They're Humphrey Farms Units 1 and 2. They are zoned A2. So obviously, large lot residential development is the norm for Jackson County above I-10. There is there's no present need to start allowing dense, small lot residential development to begin infiltrating into areas of the county that maintain a more rural, large lot development character, as in accordance with their zoning classification. These subdivisions that I've covered here, they have 243 lots in those subdivisions. And there's another one that is apparently not on here, but it's in the city of Goshen, it's Fontainebleau Estates. That's another matter. It was on the original map, but on what's here, it doesn't appear, so there's no need to even cover that. It's in the city of Goshen.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
If you could go back one slide, the so-called yellow that you said was rezoned, I believe, or...
Yeah, that's Osprey.
Could you tell us some background on that? What happened? How did that happen?
A little bit.
Who judged it? Was it appealed? Because it's sitting there and, it's just sitting there, obvious.
The little bit that I know about that is that I think, I said 2012, I think that's when it was approved. I'm not sure of the date. Anyway, what I know about that is it's surrounded by vacant land.
Do you know the answer?
So if a petition I'm sure when the petition for rezoning came from that.
The history?
It was surrounded by large tracts of vacant land. There's nothing between that and where this neighborhood starts. That's half a mile down the road, down Old Fort Bayou. So it was just something that apparently did not get any opposition or did not get.
Well, could you tell us when that happened and the circumstances, and was it appealed, and what happened?
Not to my knowledge.
And Jimmy, what?
Hold on. You're going to have to sit down. She's going to have to come up and give her name. Then give her your name.
Hi, my name's Laurie Claxton, and I visited the homes that are not near. 500 foot is really where you notify people, which in rural areas is pretty much no one. So I talked to everyone I could in that area and found out that they had no idea it was going in, and they're very upset about it. They had no clue. There was no one that even knew. That's why there was no opposition.
Oh, you're talking about on the piece Mr. Taylor's talking about?
I'm talking about what he asked of the people that were by the Osprey. They did not know. They have a lot of people that are in the surrounding areas that I was talking to, just in visiting with our neighbors.
Getting that now, yeah.
Well, Marcus, could you straighten us out on that? Was that zoned with absolutely no input from anyone?
It was. It went through the planning commission process and it was approved without an appeal. Yes, sir.
So no one objected?
We may have had some objections. I'd have to pull the file, but no one appealed it. So it passed the planning commission recommendation and was approved by the board of supervisors.
Okay, so it happened officially?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. I can get you the date of that. I'm going to have that for you in just a minute.
Okay.
I have a question about that, because we hear it every now and then about notifications and, blank papers going out. Can we check and see how many went out blank, if some went out blank, and figure out if that did happen?
Yeah, we're pulling the notification map, but our ordinance allows us to notify within 500 feet of the property line. So anybody within 500 feet would have been notified. And like I said, this is a more rural area, so a lot of people would not have gotten notification. It's only within 500 feet.
Yeah, and like in a neighborhood that's pretty densely populated, 500 feet's plenty. You'll end up with a lot of people there. Is there a way that can be tiered to where if you're in a different zone, like an A1 zoning, you notify 1,000 feet or 1,500?
Absolutely.
So we need to probably look at that, because some of these times we probably are notifying nobody.
Please.
Well, I can say that that property is separated from this neighborhood. This rezoning is requested.
Yeah, I believe that's what she was trying to make the point on.
It's separated by half a mile, and it's got wetlands and creek bottom in between, and it's just not part of the neighborhood.
Yeah. So the alligators might have got a notification. Yeah.
Okay, we've also, there are 243 lots in the subdivisions that I discussed, all zoned A1, A2. We've also received a printout from planning showing that there's a total of 1,824 single-family residential lots in subdivisions in what was called the broader Van Cleve area and surrounding area in the process of development. There are 6 of these, from as few as 19 lots to as many as 1,420 lots. Those are for subdivisions mostly in the preliminary plat phase, but there's one final plat. That's just addresses the question of need for housing in Jackson County and saying there's a lot of housing in the pipeline. I will quote from Mr. Jones' presentation to the Planning Commission for the applicant. He said, actually the unincorporated area population exceeds all the population of the cities. So people are moving to the country. They want to live out there, close quote. He goes on to say that these are, quote, people who are searching for the country life, close quote. We should allow them to continue to find that character of living in Jackson County. The obvious conclusion is that Jackson County's need for additional homes can be easily met by home building and construction within the mostly existing A1 zoning, which allows for houses to be built on 1 acre minimum lots. But occasionally, where appropriate, on A2, which allows them on 1/2 acre. I should speak some to the applicant's statements to the Planning Commission regarding our population growth. A claim was made that Jackson County's population increased by 53% from 1990 to 2020. The actual population for that period was from 115,078 in 1990 to 143,378 in 2020. That's an increase of 24.6% for that 30-year period. Population for that period was only about 12.2% of Jackson County's growth rate from 1970 to 1980, the first decade after adoption of zoning. From 1980 to 2023, there's been a population growth of 31,374, or 730 persons per year. That level of growth can easily be accommodated by new construction and subdivisions allowed within the constraints of our comprehensive plan, without creating islands of quarter-acre subdivisions to infiltrate rural neighborhoods. Obviously, our comprehensive plan does not anticipate dropping tracts of high-density residential development into large areas of the county which are zoned A1. The future land use map adopted just 3 years ago shows future intent for the Old Fort Bayou Antioch neighborhood to remain residential estate, which clearly refers to its A1 zoning classification. Again, citizens are entitled to rely on the comprehensive plan's protection of their land and their neighborhoods. There's been discussion of the availability of water and sewer in the neighborhood as somehow changing its character. In fact, most of the residents continue to use their water wells and septic systems. The fact that water and sewer makes higher density development possible does not mean that it calls for it. If it did, it would open the door for R1 everywhere. The lines are run, something that is obviously untenable as it is unfair to existing A1 neighborhoods. As stated, in order for the proposed rezoning to be approved, the applicant would have to prove that the surrounding neighborhood has changed to such an extent as to justify rezoning. The applicant bears the burden of so proving by clear and convincing evidence. That level of proof is intermediary between preponderance of the evidence, think 50.1%, and beyond a reasonable doubt, think 99.9%. It is sometimes referred to as 75% certainty, which is evidence 3 times greater than the contrary. In this case, there's clear and convincing evidence that the Old Fort Bayou Antioch neighborhood surrounding the proposed rezoning is not an area that has substantially changed over the years, but it's rather a stable, large tract, rural homestead area. In its application, the petitioner, under a heading of change of character in the neighborhood, that's page 20 in your package, lists 13 subdivisions in Jackson County and 1 C3 rezoning, none of which are in or adjacent to this neighborhood or have any connection to it. Under the subheading of public infrastructure changes, widening of Old Fort Bayou is claimed. It has not been widened at this location in decades. St. Martin High School, is that additions or renovations? It just says complete, quote, complete, have nothing directly to do with this neighborhood. A claimed planned Old Fort Bayou Road I-10 interchange is alleged as an exchange, although it has not occurred, and the actual lack of an interchange at I-10 says more about the area. I've already discussed their mention of water and sewer in the area. Highway 57 expansion has very limited effect, if any real effect, on the neighborhood, as is the case for Gaucher Van Cleve Road connector claimed to be under consideration. Keep in mind that we're talking about whether there has been an actual change in the character, stressing that word, of the neighborhood so as to justify rezoning. And it can't be maybe. It has to be clear upon fair deliberation and consideration of real evidence of change in the neighborhood. The petitioner must prove that the actual change of character has occurred. The proposed rezoning is not supported by substantial evidence of change in the character of the neighborhood affected, and it is contrary to the comprehensive plan. It is not necessary to force high-density residential neighborhoods into proximity with our county's residential estate areas in order to meet future housing needs. Instead, our comprehensive plan should be adhered to and followed, and R1 housing should be built in the areas it fits into rather than conflicts harshly with the character of the neighborhood. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Odell.
Thank you.
Savannah, as I introduced earlier, is going to speak.
Give us your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name is Savannah Cholet. I live at 10201 Greenleaf Circle, Van Cleve. Okay. I'm here as part of the representation for the appellants, and the points that I wanted to start out making are, firstly, that under section 9.15 of the municipal ordinance, which speaks to zoning changes, there's not supposed to be any application made for a rezoning unless and until all provisions of section 9.3 for public hearing have been met. And as was mentioned earlier, Emily Terrio's family lives adjacent to the plot where the proposed rezoning is going to happen. Not only did she not receive any notice, not blank pages, she got no notice. If you look at the applicant's packet and where it lists the names and addresses of the people who are to be noticed, her name is not on there, her address is not on there, she was completely excluded. So my first point would be that the application should be denied, first of all, because they did not meet all of the requisite notification procedures that are outlined in the municipal ordinance. Additionally, I think that it has been clear from the arguments already made that the character of this neighborhood has not changed significantly in recent decades. Especially, it has not been changed significantly to justify rezoning from A1 to R1. That would be a very dramatic change for this neighborhood, and there has not been the kind of development to justify a change like that. And what I would like to do is I would like everyone who is here that is opposed to this rezoning in that neighborhood to stand up, please. And I would like the board to take note that this room is full of people that do not want this property to be rezoned in this fashion. These people are not people that are opposed to people moving out into this neighborhood. They're not opposed to houses being built, but they are opposed to change being forced on this neighborhood in such a dramatic fashion. If you could please sit down.
Yeah.
For the record, could you estimate the number of people that stood up, because there's no way for the record to reflect?
I would like the record to reflect that probably about 60 people stood up. Just about the whole room, which is about full.
I was going to ask them to raise their hands, but you did better than that. That's fine.
Additionally, there's been some discussion about the water and sewer in this area, and I think that a visual representation would be powerful in that area too. If you are on both water and sewer in this neighborhood, I would like you to stand up, please. And I would like the record to reflect that no one stood up. There is no one in this room that lives in this neighborhood who is connected to both water and sewer.
Okay.
Let's see. And I know there was a little bit of discussion about Osprey Landing, I think is what the area called, that is labeled yellow on this map, that was rezoned. And I know Mrs. Claxton spoke some about how there wasn't notification. In my own inquiries, I've discovered that apparently there was a sign apparently put up as it's supposed to be in front of that property, that it was being considered for rezoning. My understanding is that the sign was knocked down. It wasn't actually standing invisible for a lot of the time that it was supposed to be posted. So not only are there not people in that area that were getting notified based on their proximity, but people driving past that live in adjacent neighborhoods, that live in that area, that traverse that area, weren't seeing the sign. People weren't seeing that it was even being considered for rezoning. People that have lived there their whole lives suddenly saw this area being cleared out and didn't know what was happening. They didn't know why this was happening. They didn't know when this change had occurred. Personally, I grew up on Antioch Road. I grew up in this neighborhood. I've lived there for most of the last 30 years, and I can tell you firsthand, there has not been a dramatic change in this neighborhood in that time frame. My extended family lives on significant acreage there. The water and sewer going in was a change, but as we've shown, pretty much very few people have been connected to it. People still use their wells, people still use their septic tanks, and people are fine with that because that meets their needs. When people move into the neighborhood, they typically will have a plot that's about the same size as relevant neighboring land, or people will pass property on to their family members. People will clear a little bit more of their land because their kids have grown up and they want their kids to move there. This isn't an area where people want to live in densely packed areas. This is an area where there are family homesteads that go generations. And people have acreage that they will divide up for their family, but their neighbors may or may not even be visible from their windows. And that is what the character of this neighborhood is. And it's people clearing land and saying, oh, look at these massive oak trees that line our street that we want to keep, because that's the character of this neighborhood, is this rural area where we have this farmland. And there's people farming, there's people with goats, there's people with cows and horses, and it is not the kind of area where a subdivision on quarter-acre lots would be in keeping with the neighborhood's character. Additionally, the applicant's packet does make some reference to some alleged changes in the neighborhood, like that there might be another interchange for the interstate off of Fort Bayou Road, or that there's water and sewer in the area. But I would argue that none of those changes, even if we took all of that at face value and accepted that all of those things indicate a change in the neighborhood's character, none of that indicates a change that justifies rezoning from A1 all the way to R1. And that any need for additional housing in this neighborhood, in this community, can absolutely be met without rezoning the property in question or the neighborhood nearby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Now, is there anyone else here to speak against this, that's representing all these folks?
First, we need to let the developer come up.
Oh, okay.
And talk. But to answer your question, Mr. Taylor, it was 2008. That was a zone change, and it was by Richard Baldry. And then later, a subdivision, Osprey Landing, was approved. So 2008 was the date that. No, sir.
What time do you have to leave?
11:30.
Okay, we have to bear in mind, he
developer.
had a death in the family, and there's a funeral today, so he's gonna have to try to get.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here for
Come on
the
up.
decision no matter what.
Yeah.
Jimmy, while we're handing out the transition, when we talk about developments and things that change the character, isn't it that, like, if we know a road project's coming in and it's a big one like Mallett Road or Highway 57, until that's actually built, it's not really part of the consideration. Am I wrong on that, or?
If something's not built yet, and there hadn't been the change that you're talking about, just think something.
Yeah. So I was just clarifying for my own benefit, when you've got a potential change in character, like an improved road, a bigger road, or more expensive road, until it's actually built, the change hasn't occurred. And I just want to make sure that I'm right on that from legal counsel.
The law that I've seen talks about a change, an actual change in the character of the neighborhood. Actual change that's occurred.
Until it happens, yeah. Okay. Go ahead, give us your name, please.
Yeah, Kenneth Jones, 919 Second Street, Gulfport, Mississippi, 39501. I am here representing Gulf Coast Development Design, and along with our attorney, Malcolm Jones, as well. So I do have a presentation. Let's see if I can do this real quick. I know somebody's leaving, so I'm going to try and do this as quick as possible while still addressing some of the concerns. So, one of the biggest things with Jackson County is that although there is a lot of vacant land that is out there, a lot of it is not suitable for development. And I think you'll see later in this presentation how we have tried to adapt this subdivision and the density and everything else into and around the wetlands, the flood zone, and various other things. So, as we all know, we have a great problem. People want to move to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and most specifically Jackson County. I know all of the board wants to attract new businesses. There's businesses that are here already that need housing, and people that want to live in this area. However, finding property that is, number one, for sale, that's not government-owned, not in a flood zone, and has limited wetlands, and also has water and sewer availability is very, very difficult. It's almost impossible. This makes land and housing prices increase dramatically. The less supply that there is, the more housing prices go up. As far as public need, we presented this at the original Planning Commission hearing. So basically, our assertion, and this is one of the things I think that is going to be the biggest topic here, is how big is this neighborhood? So I'm going to go over that potential slide. Mr. Odell kind of talked about some of the stuff that we had said, but the biggest thing, and it was brought into question with notices as well, like in a rural area, you may need to go out further, right? It's the same thing here. So whereas in a more dense urban environment, those people have grocery stores and shopping and schools within a smaller distance. Here, for people to interact socially, they're not climbing their fence, to go talk to their neighbor. They're interacting with them at churches. They're interacting with them at youth sports. They're interacting with them at schools. They're interacting at the gas station, various other things. So we are asserting that the neighborhood in this particular area, because of those things that you would have to go get, is about 4 miles. And that's fairly standard for more rural areas, I guess, to have a larger geographic area. That's actually combined with this having Sand Hill Crane to the south of it as well. So I'll go over this quickly. It's part of the packet, but basically there's 23 days on market for this area. That anything less than 60 days is pretty much an extreme shortage of housing supply. Means that when something comes on the market, it's sold immediately. The absorption level means if no more houses were listed, how long would those houses that are currently actively on the market, would it take for sale, for them all to sell? And that would only be 3 months. We have 3 months of inventory, which is extremely low. 6 months is about an average, where buyers and sellers are trying to find, a housing, and there's enough supply and enough buyers out there where there's kind of an equilibrium. As there's less houses on the market, that's when you start getting into where we were COVID and stuff like that. I mean, this number was almost a month and a half, and prices started shooting up. So we're still very low, which is a great sign. I mean, it's a great sign that there's more people that want houses in this area than there are houses available. So one thing that I found that was pretty interesting in this is there's about 2,200, this is Mobile's area employers. I stole it from one of their slideshows, but there's 2,200 Ingalls employees that live in Mobile County. And that's a lot because maybe they want to be closer to a larger city, but there's a lot of them that there's not a lot of housing here. And they can go over to Mobile and maybe buy something a little cheaper and live over there and commute back and forth as well. Again, the neighborhood, Mr. Odell kind of said it, so I won't read the entire thing again, but this area is centrally located in the Van Cleve and St. Martin overall area, and that's why to go out 4 miles, you would have to do that for shopping, commercial area, gas stations, churches, schools, restaurants, etc. So the people that are living here in the neighborhood are the ones that are going to have to interact with each other, and you're not going to climb the fence necessarily to go talk to your neighbor. You're going to see them out and about and interact with them on a daily basis. So
Please don't do that.
I have two different maps here, 2006 and then 2024. It's the same things highlighted here, just shows all the different growth in the area. So again, the 4 mile radius kind of goes to St. Martin's School, if you will, and just showing some of the different things and the progression of growth going north. So most of this area that's on the south side has been built out. We had an Old Fort Bayou widening, and that was closer to Washington Avenue, right here. And then the expansion of St. Martin's School. The board has already approved, I believe it's $200,000 in funding to continue with this interstate off-ramp here. There is water and sewer project that has gone on along Old Fort Bayou. There is the Highway 57 expansion, and then a Gaucher Van Cleve Connector Road, I believe, is in the first stages of looking into. And I think the biggest thing that was somewhat passed over, but we also talked about it a pretty good bit, is the Osprey Landing subdivision as well, and a C2 zoning that is on the corner of, what is that road? Sims Road and Old Fort Bayou. Again, Jackson County, you guys are doing a good job of expanding and taking all this into account. So you have seen that there is going to be growth in this area, and you are actively spending tens of millions of dollars to help with that. Now, Highway 57 is also an emergency evacuation route, but you're not building a road like that if you don't think that there's going to be growth in this area. You're not doing and spending money on a interstate off-ramp if you're not thinking that there's going to be growth in this area and not already seeing the progression northward. You're not running water and sewer if you're not expecting it. You're not doing any of these things as a governing body in spending this money if you're not expecting this area to change or don't think that it already has changed to the degree that you need to spend this money, and go ahead and do it. So one thing that there are a couple of R1 zonings. There's one to the south, which we already spoke of. There's one here at the corner of, I believe, Jim Ramsey and Old Fort Bayou. There is a large PUD development that's up here, and then there's also one north. So we are not the furthest north zoning classification that we're asking for an R1. We're in between an R1 on the south, directly on the south, a bunch of R1s and PUDs south of the interstate that's directly south of the Sand Hill Crane, and then there's also R1 zonings that are even north of this. And this is kind of a summation of all the stuff that we've really talked about, but we had a water and sewer project in 2010, 2011, or sewer main, I'm sorry, in 2010, 2011, water 2018, sewer low pressure in 2023, plans for the interstate off-ramp, the widening of Fort Bayou Road, which is back towards Washington Avenue, location expansion, and really expansion of Highway 57. Osprey Landing, let me get to that slide real quick here. So this property is on 40 acres of land. It has 72 lots. It is zoned R1, so the minimum lot size in that district is 9,600 square feet. This subdivision is built. I mean, at least phase one of it has been built. These pictures here are taken, and I'm assuming it's either on the agenda or being close to be presented for final plat. So I think probably there's a lot of evidence for change of character in the neighborhood, but this is probably one of the biggest ones. It's less than a half a mile from the subdivision. Because the only reason that there's nothing just to the north of this developer, maybe you didn't buy anything else, is because you do have a flood zone property that runs along the west side of ours and connects to the south here, and a lot of that's going to be flood zone and or wetlands. So between our property and this property, the only reason that that probably won't ever be developed is because it's flood zone and wetlands. Ramsey Farms is, again, north of this. It's about 4.5 miles as the crow flies, and they have lots that are 60 feet wide. Some of them, they have a lot of lots that are 80 foot wide, and it is a PUD zoning. So there's smaller lots than we're proposing north of this development. So I had presented this at the original Planning Commission, and basically we have 120 acres. Here you'll see the dark blue is flood zone. The blue's flood zone, I'm sorry, this area over here, the little light blue, and the dark is what is anticipated to be wetlands. That's from the Wildlife and Fisheries Wetland Mapper. But the area that's cleared here that has already been cleared, timbered, not by us, by the owner, current owner, is the only area that we would be developing. We're not going to place any houses inside a flood zone. Our plan is to have minimal wetland impacts, which is probably just going to be, for the most part, this crossing here. And we plan on not developing almost 45% of the site. There was some discussion about our connection to Antioch Road, and I think what's really important is from the very beginning, we did not, on purpose, rezone these two parcels. So this parcel and this parcel lead to Antioch Road. There's one because there is some drainage that goes on there, but also, more importantly, we did not and are not planning on having a connection to Antioch Road unless it is required by the fire department for an emergency access only. And so it would have a gate, it would have a Knox box on it that only fire department, police department, those kind of people have access to. And I would prefer not to have to put it in, but we are required to potentially, if the fire marshal won't allow an exception to it. So all I can say is I would like to not put it in. Our plan is to not change Antioch Road at all. I would like to not have it, but if I do, it will not have cars coming in and out of the subdivision. So this is an R1 layout that we had done on this property, again, taking out this flood zone and wetland area. So this layout shows approximately 120 homes. Again, the whole site is 120 acres. So the density level total of the site is about the same as an A1. So A1 has density level, max density of 1 lot per acre. We're not having 1 acre lots because we're not developing 45% of the site. So because of that, our lots that we're proposing are smaller. The average on this site plan is 16,000 square feet, and the smallest lot shown is 12,500 square feet. Again, our lots are smaller to make up for the developer conserving almost 45% of the site. 62 acres of this site is conserved, not developed, no homes out inside the floodplain, and a minimal wetland impact. Get a sip of water. So there's always some discussion about drainage and traffic and a lot of those things. I appreciate everybody understanding that that's not really what we're here to discuss today, but I have this in my slide. Is basically there are a lot of different steps that we're going to have to go through from this point on. Like if you guys say that you believe that it needs to be rezoned, then there's a ton of different things that we're still going to have to do with the Corps of Engineers, MDEQ, their sewer department, and their stormwater. We have to do the Department of History and Archives, endangered species. We have to go back to the county to present our plans. Part of those plans that would have to be approved as well would be a drainage plan, which would have to be designed by an engineer and also approved by DEQ and approved by the county as well. So basically, the post-development peak flow rate will have to be equal or less than the pre-development peak flow rate, and that's the requirement for Jackson County. Access, again, I already went through this, so I'll kind of skim over it, but we're not rezoning these right here, and our plan is to only rezone this 110 acres. So the only thing that will be built on the properties in blue would be potentially a fire access road only. That would be gated. The traffic, so basically, let's see, Old Fort Bayou, the MDOT Gulf Regional Planning did a traffic count study for Old Fort Bayou in 2023. It was 1,400 cars per day. The Transportation Research Board Highway Capacity Manual establishes maximum AADT for 2-lane highway as much as 3,200 vehicles per hour. So that would allow free-flowing traffic. As said in here, even for the R1 zoning, this is 120 lots, which isn't going to affect this traffic at all.
Folks, we can't do that.
And just for the record, I'm not saying there won't be any more.
No, we can't do that.
Take notes.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I'm not saying there won't be any more traffic. I'm saying that
It's within the guidelines.
it's within the guidelines. That's
Okay.
correct. The comprehensive plan was interesting, and I actually agree that it does not have it. However, as planned, future comprehensive plan for it to be residential zoning. However, there's a couple of things that you may want to take note of. One is even Osprey Landing, where this plan, the future land plan was done, is not shown as a residential zoning, and it was already rezoned at the time that this map was done. So that's right here, number 6. There's number 5 that's been rezoned to a PUD, number 4 that's been rezoned to a PUD. I mean, all of these have the estate subdivision, land plan, and they've all been rezoned. So number 2 has also been rezoned to a PUD. So while I believe it does, I can acknowledge the fact that this does not have it on there as an R1 or for a future land plan. There's many other ones, including a subdivision that's already been completed that was rezoned prior to this map being produced that was already zoned R1 at the time that it was produced. And I'll lead with, or finish, I'm sorry, with this is we have tried to get a hold of some of the neighbors. I've reached out to Mr. Claxton and Ms. Thuriot and wanted to talk to them about how to work with them on this project. I mean, I understand that they didn't want to talk to me about it. They said that they didn't really want anything there, and that's understandable. But I do believe that, number one, we've proven that there is a change of character in the area and a public need. However, we understand that there's concerns. We understand that the people, number one, I don't think that they want anything there, but the growth is going this direction. It's going there at some point, and if you guys say today that you don't believe it is, because of the things that you're doing and spending money and the growth that's just naturally occurring north, this property in this area will be developed. I mean, it's just a matter of time. It's going there. It may be, if not today, maybe 2 or 3 years from now, but it's going to happen. So as a show of goodwill, I guess what we would like to propose is to do an A3 zoning district on this instead of an R1 zoning district. And what that looks like, I'm going to show you the difference between the two. So the R1 is the site plan that I have here, and I'll just try and zoom it out a little bit. But again, it has all this land being preserved, including the area going to Antioch Road. This site plan shows 120 acres plus or minus, 62 acres being preserved, not developed, 120 lots are shown, so 1 per acre of a total density. I'm not trying to say that each lot is 1 acre in size. The average lot size on this is 16,000 square feet, and the smallest lot size is 12,500 square feet. The A3 is even better than this. Number one, I think A3 has 100-foot wide roads. It wouldn't have curb and gutter, so it's going to have open ditch. Have more of that rural feel. The minimum lot size there is 14,800 square feet. And we go from 120 lots in the R1 zoning district to 91 in this site plan. So that total is, I think it's 0.7 or so. I did the math a minute ago. Let's see. So while Osprey Landing had 1.8 homes per acre on theirs, the A3 for ours would be 0.75 homes per acre. And I think then the minimum, this is obviously a preliminary site plan, but the average lot size shown here is 20,500 square feet, and the smallest lot shown here is 15,600 square feet. So while I understand that this is not going to make everybody happy and be all great, I want to say that we are trying to develop responsibly. We are trying to not develop this into the flood zone and into all these wetlands and everything else where we could. And since someone, if this gets turned down and 3 years from now, 5 years from now, someone else that's not from this area, that doesn't care about South Mississippi and doesn't understand the flood zones and doesn't ever understand all those kind of things, and they can develop in this area and they can try and go for R1 and they can impact more wetlands than what we're trying to do. They can develop in flood zones. There's no law that says you can't develop in a flood zone, which is obviously not a good idea and not something that we like to do. We understand and want to preserve these wetlands and these flood zone areas. Our plan, and we have worked with them in the past, is to work with the Land Trust of the Mississippi Coastal Plain to potentially maybe even do a park here or something like that, but we've worked with them in the past, currently ongoing on one of our other sites that has a bunch of wetlands next to it. And they're doing a nature trail through it as we speak. So I think Mr. Malcolm Jones has a couple things he wants to add.
I'm Malcolm Jones. I represent the developer. a lot of times people don't like change because they don't know what that's going to bring about. But I will say this, the area is changing. There's no doubt about it. It's going to change whether you want it to or not. It's particularly changing though, and it has changed, and has already
Excuse me just
changed.
a minute. Y'all please hold it down. This lady cannot do her job with that going on in the background. Go ahead.
Thank you. It has already changed in that there were findings made by the Planning Commission. I actually know about that Osprey Landing subdivision because not only did it come before the Planning Commission back when they rezoned it in 2008, but it came back again into the Planning Commission more recently when they had to get the subdivision approved. So there have been multiple times that it has been discussed by the Planning Commission and approved by this board, even more recently. Some of the people said, well, we didn't get notice. Well, I've never seen a room so packed of people that didn't get notice. In fact, Ms. Terrio, on page 35 of the transcript of the Planning Commission hearing, she appeared and presented all of the facts, not as much as she presented today, but a lot of information that she wanted to put forth to the Planning Commission, so she had ample opportunity. She actually participated, she objected. Ms. Furr, who also didn't get notice, she showed up, did the same thing, she objected, put on her case.
Why are you showing quotes?
No. Don't do that. He's up, he's speaking right now. Go ahead.
Thank you. So what I'm trying to get across is that the Planning Commission, or excuse me, the Planning Department did go ahead and send out the notices to the people that they were required to send out notices to. Now, to respond to something that was said from the bench, it might be a good idea in rural areas to go ahead and expand the area out in, like you said, different tiers to where you have greater notification. That's not a bad idea. I work mostly over in the Harrison County area where they consider those factors. But this is not a case of where people did not get notice and didn't know about it. But changes have occurred out there. We put all this into the record. We proved it. The Planning Commission, obviously, who had a more expansive hearing, who is your people that you appoint to go ahead and listen to all this, they heard it. They decided 5-2 to go ahead and move this forward and to recommend it. They decided to go ahead and recommend the change for Osprey Landing. They recommended it, you approved it. I know, and you know, that they're an advisory group. You do not have to do what they recommend. However, if you're going to go ahead and do what you are doing already, which is having the vision of the county, having the ability to go ahead and sort of look out into the future further than other people that are maybe out there doing their jobs and don't have time to manage. Governing is hard, very hard. You have to have vision. You have to go ahead and plan well in advance for development. If you don't, it will pass you by, and you will have greater problems because you did not produce housing inventory for people that need it. You already see that a lot of your people that are working here are going back home to other places. Why not give them the opportunity to live and play where they work? That area out into the north of the interstate, the Van Cleve area, everybody that seems to be studying it, planning it from a political, from a public standpoint, perspective, is putting money into development out there. They're putting money into development of the highways out there. They're putting money into expansion by way of the water and sewer. They can say that, well, those don't count, but in reality, when you put that centralized water and sewer out into the area, you are making a statement that you want to have greater density. But we're not talking about a dense subdivision here. We're not talking about little postage stamp lots here. We're talking about larger lots. And if perchance you think that moving from this agricultural zone to the R1 is too strong, go to the A3. You have a planner right here. He can tell you, but you can do that right now. You can go ahead and go from where it is right now, A1 to A3 at this hearing. We don't have to come back for another hearing. You can allow a 90-lot subdivision. You can allow something that's going to affect Old Fort Bayou. We don't have a road going up to tying into Antioch. We're not going to be up there causing trouble and adverse effects upon all the people up on Antioch Road, up by that church. We intentionally did not go ahead and rezone that property to make it clear that we weren't going to do it in the future either. If we have anything at all, it'll be because the fire department said you have to have an emergency access road that is gated, that has a key that's available to the fire department to allow people to get out in the event that they have to in an emergency situation. That's not the same thing as a free flow of traffic in and out of Antioch Road. I tell you all this because these are things you already know. Sometimes you have to go ahead and make bigger decisions for the community that they themselves cannot see, but they will be grateful for and thankful for later on when you do have to go ahead and look into the future and decide what is best for the community. We clearly, as the Planning Commission has decided and found, we have clearly met the proof required to show a change in circumstances, and the objectors have not clearly shown that we haven't met our burden. So if you respect the recommendation of the Planning Commission, if you believe that those people have the best interests of Jackson County in mind, then think about what it took to get them to go ahead and say yes, after looking at all the proof and hearing from all the same objectors in great detail. They decided what's best for Jackson County is to allow growth to continue up Old Fort Bayou Road. That's what you're looking at. That's what you've got to make a decision about and say to yourself as you leave here and go home and go back and say to yourself, am I doing what I'm supposed to do as a public official in the county of Jackson? Yes, the answer is you've got to go ahead and recognize that growth is coming. And look at your own statistics. The fastest growing area in Jackson County is not the urban city areas, it's the county areas. It's growing like unbelievable. And the amount of infrastructure being invested into that area says it for you. It's here, it's coming. You need to go ahead and say to yourself, am I going to be with that plan, or am I going to go ahead and push against that plan? Because all the other development, all the other studies, all the other planning is all about trying to create homes and home sites out into that area. So we would ask that you go ahead and approve what the Planning Commission has said. There is a change in circumstance in the area, and there's definitely a public need. We don't have to come in here and say that all the area out on Antioch Road has changed. That is not what we have to do. We just have to show you that in the areas that we're talking about developing on Old Fort Bayou Road, south of us, to the north of us, you know, all these areas that we've identified on these maps, are there changes here? Yes, there are. The objectors want to say, well, that's too far away from us. We don't want to consider that. Well, the Planning Commission said that was in the area of the neighborhood. They took a more expansive view. I would suggest to you that you should do the same. We appreciate your time. If you have any questions, I'm here.
Question.
Yes, sir.
You said we could change the zoning today to what, A3?
Correct. And we will accept that.
Okay. Has there been any discussion with the citizens who are objecting about doing that?
Marcus is here. I believe he can say that, and I don't want to speak for him, but I believe he can say that you can go ahead and rezone all the way up to that and anywhere in between. So
I don't want to prove the case for either party. I try to stay as neutral as possible. I've given both sides information as they've asked, but just to give the board some clarification, A1 density is one per acre, basically, and what they're asking for is R1. That's 4.5 and 9,600 square foot lots. Now, if the board chose to go with A3, that would be 2.9 per acre density and 14,800 square feet lots, and it looked like they were going to be well above that. But the board could make that decision today and not have to go back through the Planning Commission process. You know, that the board could do that.
Could to answer your question, Mr. Taylor, we have tried to reach out a couple times. I think I said that earlier, but to the objector, or, you know, the main people who appealed this case, and they weren't willing to meet. So I did want to talk to them about that, to hear their concerns and everything else, and I think, this area, like I said, in the text, they don't want anything out here, and while I understand that, to get it going from R1 to A3 for them that doesn't accomplish their objective, which is to have nothing. So that was, I think, I can read the quote directly or the text message interaction between us, but I have not. I have not talked to them, but it's not from lack of trying.
So the answer is, yes, you can do this today. Your planner says you can do it today. Legally, you can do that today. And we are willing to accept that as a compromise to try to show that we want to work with the leadership of Jackson County to try to create some housing, even if it is larger lots. For our 90 lot subdivision that we proposed, which is under A3, the average lot size was going to be
Average is 20,000 square feet.
20,000 square feet. Now think about that. 20,000 square feet. That is a larger lot. Now, is
That's
it?
also with preserving 45% of the.
I'm aware. So if you are looking for a way to find a compromise, because that's what leadership does sometimes, is you try to look for a way to go ahead and move forward, but at the same time, you can't always make all the public happy all the time. We're willing to work with you. That's an option that's available. We thank you for your time.
Yes, sir. I am going to disagree with you on one thing.
Yes, sir.
I listen to the people.
Yes,
I don't listen to y'all. Okay? These people took their time to come here.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to listen to them. Now, whether the rest of this board listens to them, that's up to them. But I'm going to listen to the people every time. Okay? So Kenneth and I have worked together on other developments. He'll tell you I'm probably the easiest guy to work with because I'm a builder developer myself.
Right.
But that don't mean we're going to force things on people.
No, sir.
I believe in compromise. Don't get me wrong. Hey, look, I compromise a lot of times. But at the end of the day, these are the people that are affected, not me and you. Okay?
I understand.
So if they're against it, then I'm their representative. I have to be against it, okay?
I understand
but
it.
At the end of the day, it's their choice, not yours.
Yes, sir. And let me tell you this.
And I think they need a little bit more respect. I know you got a law. I know you got to do your lawyer thing. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think they deserve a little more respect than what they've been given here today. Okay?
Let me tell you this.
People that object are not bad people. They just have, they got a way of life, and it's not my position to disrupt that way of life.
Right.
Okay?
I represented a public body for 36 years, a city. 36 years, and I listened to a lot of the same talk from people like myself coming forward. But I also know that during that time, and just like it is for you, change comes. And so the question is, do you want to manage it, or do you want to let it go ahead and come in, and then you've got to react to it? And that's the part that I think that governmental leaders are always worried that they're going to go ahead and not be there. But let me say this, those people are already out there. They've already built homes out there. They've already been paying taxes out there. Certainly, you have to listen to them. Certainly, you have to go ahead and give them deference, for sure. However, if we listen to, and I say we, if leadership listened to all the objections and all the opposition and didn't go ahead and say to themselves, sometimes change is for the better, then we wouldn't be where we are today. And I mean all of us. I mean Jackson County, Harrison County, the whole country. You know, the question is how can you manage it along the way to make sure that it's not going to seriously adversely impact people, because I know they're worried about it. I'm aware of that. I think those are legitimate concerns, and they have every right to come up here and raise all the cane that they want. And, you know, and to say that, but sometimes you have to go ahead and say to yourself, is this bigger? Is this a bigger issue that's going to have a bigger impact on the unincorporated areas of Jackson County? I realize that you don't represent just the unincorporated areas. You represent all the areas. But this is a big decision for the unincorporated area of Jackson County. And the question is, are you going to promote development in that area for residential development or not? And if you're not, I don't think you're going to get a much better development than this one to come forward with this large lots, particularly at A3. You know, the next one will come along years from now when you see that you're further behind on trying to create housing inventory because there's about a 2 to 3 year lead on these things. It's going to be much smaller, more dense, and maybe.
At the end of the day, A1, what it's zoned right now.
Yes.
You can build houses on 1 acre lots. Am I correct?
You can,
Okay,
all day.
all right. So
all day, every day.
What we're talking about here is densifying a large tract, and yeah, I get it. 45 acres of it will be, you know, won't be used, and I get that.
Right.
But at the end of the day, there's nothing keeping you from building 1 acre residential homes on 1 acre lots today. There's nothing.
Nothing prevented
You
it.
could go into planning, turn in a site plan, get on the agenda, get approved. You could do 1 acre lots without all this.
Good.
Okay. So,
and if you
what's
did,
keeping you from doing that?
and if you did, let me finish this. If you did, you wouldn't have to go ahead and put centralized water and sewer out there. That's what the big change
Well,
was
look,
here.
let me tell you about that. I served on the utility authority board for
Yes.
8 years before I was elected supervisor.
Right.
That infrastructure was put in by a CBDG grant from the governor, Haley Barbour, at the time. And it was put in for future growth, okay? It's not that, and it don't matter if it's 1 acre lots or residential lots, 9,600 square foot lots, it doesn't matter. It was put in for future growth, to get people out of the flood zone.
Right.
Okay, that didn't mean it automatically said you were gonna change the zoning, okay?
That's right.
Water and sewer is a convenience that most areas don't have. This area now has it.
Right.
And so it didn't, and I had this argument with the utility authority board many a times. I'm not gonna force anybody to hook up. This was a grant that was put in. It has no debt service other than what it costs to maintain it.
Right.
So it's not like the county borrowed $100 million to put it in. It was given to us by the federal government, so it has no debt service.
Right.
So that means it can lay there until somebody wants to develop, whether that's A1 1 acre lots or R1 9,600 square foot lots. It doesn't matter. That infrastructure is there for the impending future. Okay, so every time somebody comes in here and says the argument about water and sewer is available, yeah, it's available. But it don't mean we have to rezone everything to tap into it. Okay, and you know, I know you and I have talked about this, and I've told you how I feel about it, and so.
You asked a question a second ago that I just want to address, and you said, or not a question, it was a statement really of what's to prevent you from going, or you can go ahead and do A1 zonings. Well, that's actually correct. But, so if I don't do this subdivision and conserve all these areas, someone can put a road straight through here and straight up here and not preserve 62 acres or 45% of the lots.
Right.
I mean, was that something that you would, I mean, because this to me is much smarter development than what's allowed by right now.
I get it. But you gotta tell those people that.
I mean, I understand, but you have to, like, that's my point, and we have to Mr. Malcolm Jones's point is you have to look at this of what's the betterment for Jackson County overall. Is this developer that's looking at this that's going to stay away from the wetlands and the flood zones and everything else, is that better than what's allowed by right now? And would that warrant allowing smaller lots on the area that is uplands and not in the flood zone? Because my density level for the whole development is less than what the A1 allows. I'm doing 91 lots on 120 acres. I mean, so that's less than what the A1 would allow. And that was my only point. I'm sorry.
Well, like I said, there's nothing preventing you today
from doing a bad development
to doing A1 lots. Okay,
100%.
There's nothing this board can do if you qualify through planning, all your engineering requirements are met, your wetlands requirements are met. If all that, you're within the current zoning to develop 1 acre lots. That's what I'm getting at.
I get it. And it would be a terrible thing for everybody out there.
That's, like I said, I'm here trying to give you the options so that we can see this might be better than this, or this might be better than this. That's up to your neighbors. That ain't up to me. I'm gonna do what they asked me to do.
That's why we were willing to go ahead and drop back to the A3 zoning, stay in the agricultural zoning classification, not go to R1. And let me say this about the infrastructure, like you said, it's already out there. Yes, it is out there, and yes, until you get users on that line, the only way to pay for maintenance is to go ahead and take it out of property taxes for everybody.
You're on there. So property taxes do not, utility authority is its separate organization, okay? It works off of user fees, okay? So it doesn't collect any money from the taxpayers of this county. It works off the people who use it.
But if you don't have the
by the
users
fees that
out
are
there,
generated.
They're gonna have to raise up the water and sewer prices for
Exactly.
everybody else.
if you don't have the users out there, then the rates go up, or the taxes go up. You gotta get the money somewhere.
That don't mean we rezone something to get,
Well, it's
to
something
get
to think
customers.
about for the whole
Okay,
town.
that's what I'm trying to say here.
Thank you for your
Okay,
time.
that's it.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all a lot. We appreciate y'all coming in.
Question, I just don't know what to ask it.
Do what, Sean?
I guess I want to, we're talking about neighborhoods so much in this meeting and how you define that. And I was like, how do you define a neighborhood, especially in a rural area? Because 4 miles, if you're crossing a bayou, definitely isn't the same neighborhood. But I started thinking, and I was like, there are a lot of Dollar Generals out there, and they have a pretty close market. And would y'all give me a show of hands of who goes to the Dollar General, like on Jim Ramsey versus Seaman or 57? If you're going to go to the Dollar General just to pick milk up or something really quick, who would go to the Jim Ramsey dollar store versus one of the other two? Well, I mean, but if you were going to drive to because there's a Dollar General that's on the road, probably about 1.5 miles up, 2 miles up. I think that is something that, ironic, they call it the Waffle House effect for hurricanes.
You just will
We
quit
have to,
for a minute. I know
for her
you're
to take
supposed
notes, we can't talk at the same time.
Yeah, we can't do
But,
this. It's just can't.
But I think if you drew circles around those Dollar Generals, you probably would have neighborhoods. I mean, you'd be pretty stinking close.
Yeah, but anyway, all right. Hold on. Marcus, come on back up. Hold on just a minute. Hold on.
Rebuttal from him, usually you'll hear from the public.
Is at the end, isn't it, Marcus? Yeah. Just sit down for right now. Okay. Is anyone else here to speak?
Yeah, there's a lot of people.
I know for the neighborhood, what I'm
Against
on.
it.
There's no one else here for?
I do have a rebuttal, but I'll reserve it till after.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna hold you to last. I'm gonna let you come on up first, and I'm gonna get the fellow in the back against the wall.
These are 4
Yeah.
subdivision? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think there is.
You want her to come.
She's against, I'm sorry.
Okay. Anybody for it?
I did. Is there anybody here, anybody else for it? I asked that.
Okay, can you come on up?
Oh, okay.
Development.
Okay. We're getting confused here. Come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Theresa Waker, and it's 9900 Sanctuary Boulevard. I'm in Ocean Springs. I am here on behalf of the public need. I am a top producing real estate agent here, and between July of this year and last year, we had 91 listings between 280,000 and 380,000 in Van Cleve. Right now, 14 of those are active. 9 are pending, and 68 have closed. That leaves us about 6 homes per month. Right now, with the 14 that we have left, that gives us about 2 months' worth of homes to put people in. We have military coming in all the time. Those that are typically here more than 3 years want to buy a house. They don't want to rent. We're out of stuff closer to Keesler. That leaves the growth to come this way. We also have people that have been here for a while that want to retire here. We have nothing left. Our shipyard workers from Ingalls and stuff, we're having to put them in Lucedale because we have nothing closer. And it's like they said, we can either go with somebody that actually cares and is willing to work with us and preserve the wetlands, or you can wait and have a developer come in that's going to mitigate this. Mitigating these properties It's gonna cause backflow and everything else. What they're trying to do isn't gonna do that. I've reached out to the developer and also looked at his work. So it seems like he's more community-driven than a lot of these people who would come in and file for mitigation credits and go in and change the wetlands, and then it changes the flow of everything. They're not coming in and affecting or telling anybody around them that they can't have the farm animals or they have to cut down their own trees. They're still gonna have the property that they have. So there is a dire public need for more homes in Jackson County.
Thank you, ma'am. There was somebody back here, I believe. No? Okay. Anybody else for this development? All right, now we're gonna go to those against. Now I'll let you come on up, or you first. Come on up.
I do have my speech, but just a couple of points. I'm sorry. Emily Terrio. I live at 9909 Old Fort Bayou Road. I'm flanked on two sides by this subdivision, so the road off of Old Fort Bayou will be down my property and it'll go behind my property. But I just wanted to say, a lot of the points that I've seen them make are all anticipated change, and to my knowledge, the criteria is it has to be a current change in character. So maybe down the road, those things do happen, but they haven't happened yet, and the I-10 exit, to my knowledge, the money was put there as a proposed exit to be studied if there should be an exit there. There's nothing to say they're gonna put an exit. And also, whenever they put that plat up there, that's the first time I've seen that. If they do R1, that's 18 backyards in my backyard. If they do A3, I looked at that and counted, it's 15 backyards in my backyard. That's not a compromise. My two neighbors, Mr. Path and Ms. Fur, I have 10 and then they have 5 and 5. This subdivision will be all against our homes. I didn't include the people off of Antioch. I didn't have time to count them, but just us three. He has been here for 40 years. Her husband has lived there 60 years. I've been here 20 years, almost my whole life. If you put 18 houses in my backyard, you will ruin the character of where I live. It's not good change and it's not good growth. And I don't want to speak to the developers because I believe it should stay A1. It should be one house per 1 acre maximum. That is our neighborhood. That's when you walk, and I gave that PowerPoint, and you take a walk through our neighborhood, that is what fits the character. And that's why I don't want to meet, because our goals don't align to zone to A3 or R1 with 15 houses in my backyard. But I want you to know that this neighborhood is very special to many people here, and our love for it is why we're trying so hard to protect its character. I went to many of my neighbors' houses to talk about their concerns with this rezoning, and I want to give a little insight to what that was like. Large oak trees, winding driveways, and quiet countryside. We got to speak with our neighbors who would often send us next door to speak with their family member. We learned that many residents have lived here 20 to 50 years, the majority. Family land that is promised to go to their children and their children's children. I know that you listen to the developer, and they will do their best to convince you that there has already been a change in character of the neighborhood. But I implore you to listen to this current neighborhood, most of whom have not been hooked up to the city water and sewer that is being used against us to determine change. I apologize. But also, city water and sewer, there's many other points that they've left out that are part of the comprehensive plan. In the comprehensive plan, it says weaknesses are that residential development within the area could cause removal of agricultural and forestry area if the sprawl is unchecked. Threats include sprawl-like and uncontrolled growth. Rural lands could be lost if growth pressures continue. While you may have conversion of lands to a higher density residential level, ideally, development design will occur as extensions of existing development to avoid fragmentation of habitat and negative effects of urban sprawl. And I've already recently learned there's already been 9 approved subdivisions already going in phases. So I believe the need is going to be met. They are building houses. This has been approved in other neighborhoods where it's more suitable. But I read in the transcript from the previous meeting, it was said that people move here because they want the country life too. That's what their lawyer said. But this development is not the country life. That is not why people move to this area. I actually lived in a subdivision in Mobile, because Mobile is where I work. I moved to this land a year ago, but I could not use my backyard. I had dogs on either side of my property that would bark at me every single time I went into my backyard. I had to walk my own dog on a leash in the backyard because she was too scared to go outside alone. And so to see 15 of those backyards against my 10 acres gave me chest pain. But I'm not the only one. This is in 11 people's backyards. It's not clustered. It's not an extension of a different development. It's surrounded by agriculture and farmland. According to the comprehensive plan and future land use map, agricultural land is what it should be. That's what its future is supposed to be. Our character has not changed. The comprehensive plan is not in compliance, and it will adversely affect neighbors who have invested their life here. Our need for housing should not be based off of St. Martin or Ocean Springs. Anticipating growth does not meet the criteria to rezone, and that is not our neighborhood. Also in the transcript, it was said that neighbors already have a natural tree buffer, which I realized that they just got rid of that completely because it's all alongside our homes. But we do plan on converting this into a farm. I'm gonna build a barn and a house and have farm animals, and there's already a donkey that lives back there, and goats and chickens. And Supervisor Bosarge has assured us that he is going to vote no. And I think that you should take that into consideration and vote according to the criteria. Vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Folks, before I continue, I know you're gonna be next, I promise you. Y'all look at that clock behind me on the wall. At 10 after, let's come back. There's a restroom right outside the door. Y'all take a 10-minute break and we'll be right back. Okay? Appreciate y'all giving us a few minutes. And I'm gonna start with the guy in the back in the light green shirt or whatever. Come on up, be sure and give your name and address. And I wanna say right off the bat too, if y'all would, I know all you folks are against this, and there's no doubt in my mind about that. So let's don't go through 60 folks saying the same thing over and over, you know. I think the board kind of knows what it wants to do. We know how y'all feel, but I want y'all to say what you want to say too, but let's just not everybody get up and repeat the same thing, you know. We're pretty sure where y'all at, but go ahead.
Well, good afternoon. My name's Jay Spate, and I live at 10528 Antioch Road here in Van Cleve, and we are part of the Fort Bayou community. We've lived here for 32 and a half years. However, with the exception of the 8 years my wife and I lived in Starkville and Ocean Springs, Janice Kate Spate, my wife, has lived on this property since she was brought home from the hospital as a newborn in 1957. Originally, this was a 20-acre parcel of land her parents, James A. and Teresa Cates, bought in 1948. Mr. Cates farmed this land, growing all the vegetables the family ate, raising hogs and chickens until his death. Some years after his death, Mrs. Cates directed myself, Janice, and her remaining 3 siblings to divide the land. There are 4.88 acre parcels of land, of which Janice and I live on the west parcel. Her younger brother, Timothy, lives on the east parcel with his wife. Janice's brother, Reed Cates of Mobile, Alabama, owns a middle parcel, and her sister, Regina Cates Martin of Jasper, Georgia, owns the adjoining parcel to my land. So as you can see, the family 20 acres remains in the family. Until my recent failed foot surgery, I maintained Janice's father's walking trails on the 20, as well as additional ATV trails that were used for our family's use. In addition, I planted a 1-acre vegetable and sunflower garden right along Antioch Road every year until I couldn't do it anymore. I grew up outside of Washington, D.C. I despised living in a city environment as a child. Neither Janice or I wanted that after we got married, so when Mr. Cates offered me the chance to build on the 20 acres, I took it. We have thoroughly enjoyed our quiet, rural life. This subdivision could destroy this and change our neighborhood into the land of the quarter-acre lots I so despised as a child. The rezoning proposal also suggested that the widening of Old Fort Bayou Road from Washington Avenue to Yellow Jacket Road would facilitate traffic flow coming up to this proposed subdivision. That is simply not true. That area is over 5 miles away down Old Fort Bayou Road, which is a 2-lane, 40-mile-an-hour road. In no way would that short stretch of widened road facilitate traffic flow. Lastly, the influx of additional children will greatly overcrowd our schools. There are no plans to add additional school space. And in fact, on or about 5/19/2021, the proposed $67 million school bond was rejected by the county voters, 75% opposed to 25% approved. In closing, Janice and I respectfully ask that you decline the rezoning proposal in order to preserve the quiet rural life our residents enjoy on Antioch and Fort Bayou Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. And Jay, I was in D.C. not long ago, and you came uphill when you came down here.
I did.
Thank you, sir. Who would like to come up next? Come on up in the blue or black.
Can I share this with y'all?
Yeah, sure.
There's the maps I've talked about. It's kind of cartoonish, but that's how you do it.
You ever want to give it the court reporter?
Yes, sir.
You don't have enough, give you last.
Yeah, I got it. She's got one.
Yeah. We're good.
Okay.
That'd be
Porter, you're gonna give her?
Yeah. She give it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
And give us your name and address.
My name's Todd Davis. I live on 10481 Stotler Road, and I've lived there for 18 years. So the maps you have kind of shows the character of the properties around it that they're looking to rezone. On my land personally, I have 13.74 acres of land, which is one property over from the considered rezoned land. We farm our land and raise farm animals there. We ride ATVs, and we also shoot guns on our property. The character of the surrounding area is woodlands and small country farms. Nowhere in our neighborhood is any kind of high-density housing, as you can see from the maps. There is 109 acres of private hunt land on the connecting south property line that wasn't ever mentioned here, so I want to make sure y'all understand that. There is actually a hunting club on the south side of this property where they're proposing to put a neighborhood. There's also connecting on the west side of that property is a 60-acre horse farm and 120 acres of private land that also hunting takes place on. The other surrounding properties on the north side and east side of the property are multi-acres plots with single-family homes and small farms that we've talked about. All of this land is rural in nature and character. It is not R1. Nowhere in our area should be rezoned for R1. A dense neighborhood would change the character of the area and also affect the surrounding properties and how the harmony is of that area. These developers not only trying to buy and rezone this property, but have contacted several other surrounding property owners and made offers to buy their land also. So if this takes place, they're not only looking to try to rezone this land, they're going to try to rezone other surrounding properties of those large tracts. If you allow this rezoning, not only will this character of the land be forever changed, but it'll start a snowball effect affecting the rezoning when our rural neighborhood will be changed forever and our peaceful, quiet lives on our land will be affected forever. I ask you to please vote no to keep the character of our neighborhood as rural and our quality of life that we chose to live on our properties the same. Thank y'all.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Who would like to come up next? Come on up. Give us your name and address, please.
Yes, sir. My name is Christopher Lionel Eleuteris. I live at 10101 Old Fort Bayou Road, Van Cleve, Mississippi, 39565. I'm representing my mother, Catherine S. Eleuteris, and the rest of the Eleuteris family. My parents bought their property in 1974, over 50 years ago. Our property is a 15-acre farm as well as an existing residence. We have chickens as well as have had other farm animals throughout the years as well as a variety of crops. We have a family cemetery on the property and my father was buried there in April of 2011. I've lived on our property for 21 years and my children have always known that my house is their home. My two children will inherit this property. Fort Bayou neighborhood itself has not changed since my parents bought the property. Fort Bayou neighborhood has been a stable, unchanging, rural, agricultural, quiet, peaceful, country living community all of my life. It's a close-knit community. I've known my neighbors all of my life, and I'm 54 years old. The character of the Fort Bayou neighborhood is one of an agricultural neighborhood with a quiet country living, farmhouses and lots from 3 acres to well over 100. Many with farm animals, large gardens, and active farming to this day. Our property directly butts 300 feet of the east side of this proposed development. The character of a neighborhood translates directly into the lifestyle of the residents of that neighborhood. The construction of this development makes a dramatic and detrimental change to the character of the Fort Bayou neighborhood and ultimately the lifestyle of the lifetime and generational residents of this neighborhood. Construction of this development is inappropriate and a drastic mismatch to the existing neighborhood, wedging a new high-density residential urban community directly in the middle of an old, stable, rural agricultural community known for quiet country living will permanently change the fundamental character of Fort Bayou neighborhood as well as the lifestyle of its residents for the worse and not for the better. I humbly request that you turn this proposed development down and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Next, who would like to come up? One. Come on up.
probably the next 2 is my house and then back to the back.
Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Nancy Furr, and I live at 10017 Oak Fork Bayou Road. I'm married to Mason Furr. We have 7 acres, and he's been there his whole life. I've been there for 40 years, okay? I've raised 3 generations of children, my grandchildren, and now my great-grandchildren. We have been a part of this neighborhood for a long time, and I came here today to assure you that the character of this neighborhood has not changed. Our life is invested into this land and farm that we have built. For the past 35 years, we have raised goats. They are not just livestock. They are sensitive animals. The land they stay on is directly next to the property that they're trying to rezone. Their temperament and health are directly tied to the environment. For them, peace is not a luxury, it's a necessity for healthy, productive life. Please say no to the rezoning of this land. It does not fit in with the neighborhood. We are not just protecting our own land, we're protecting a quality of life that is rapidly disappearing in our world, and this is the reason many of us call Van Cleve home.
Thank you, Nancy. Who would like to be next? Come on up, please. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Doris Stotler. My address is 10450 Stotler Road, Van Cleve, Mississippi, 39565. The one thing I haven't heard from anybody speaking is our road system in that area. We have Fort Bayou that goes up there at 40 miles an hour, and nobody knows how to drive 40 miles an hour. The road's not big enough for that kind of traffic and that speed. Currently, Antioch Road is a cutoff from Fort Bayou to Seaman Road, and a lot of people are now using that. Again, people don't realize the speed limit is 30 miles an hour, and it's a small road. When you're talking about a community, I can't tell you how many times I have stopped on Antioch Road, driving that way, and my friends are driving that way, and we all stop and talk. So the stuff about that we don't communicate because we're so far apart is not true. Please realize, when I moved out to that property, if I saw 3 cars on Antioch Road, oh my Lord, where'd they all come from? Really. Now there's a lot of traffic and people are just speeding. I have sat out there and talking to a sheriff one day at the end of Stotler Road, and here comes people just flying down the road. And me, being me, I yell, "Slow down!" Well, the sheriff took off after him. Okay? People don't realize what it's like to live in the country. They don't realize what these smaller roads can and cannot do and what they'll tolerate. So please consider those things. Those are our lifestyles. You can't change those roads, especially Antioch Road, for any kind of growth. The properties aren't made for that out there. The roads aren't made out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Anyone else that would like to come up?
I would. I'd like to say one thing.
Come on up. Give us your name and address again.
I'm Laurie Claxton, 9913 Old Fort Bayou Road. Yes. I just, oh, I thought they were done.
Yeah. Is anyone else from the public that would like this? Let this lady go before you,
Okay.
Laura. You must trust her.
Well, I gave birth to her, and she gave birth to the baby.
Okay.
So, I'm Shara Trostclair, and I live at 10448 Antioch Road. Couple things that I would like to point out that I don't think have been pointed out before. Personally, me and my husband own 21, 23 acres, something like that, right there on Antioch Road. My family, my parents, my brother, my niece, together we own 65 acres. We have been there, me and my husband have been there for We've been married 33 years we've lived there. And I promise you that putting this subdivision in so close to Antioch Road is going to change the character of our neighborhood more than it's changed in the 31 years that I've been there, plus the 40 years that Mr. Hawkins lived there before us. He passed away quite a few years ago, and as someone else pointed out, that's the way property changes hands in our area. Someone passes away, they sell the property to a neighbor's son, or his estate sells it to a neighbor's son. So I don't know how much their son owns, but 20 acres maybe that they bought from Mr. Hawkins? Okay. My neighbors right across the street back here, they own acres. Their family, they have at least 2 or 3 of their children on our street. We go to church together. We talk, you know. No, we're not in a subdivision, so we're not over our fences at one another. We're there because we like our peace and quiet, right? We don't feel the need. We have family there to watch our houses if we go out of town. We don't need one another to interact on a daily basis on those type of things. But we care about one another, okay? We keep an eye on one another. And if you want to know what a neighborhood is, your neighborhood stood up over, right? That's the neighborhood, okay? You can draw lines anywhere you want to, but this is the neighborhood we're talking about. And guys, I know this is a hard decision. I know it is. I do not envy where y'all sit. But I would respectfully ask that you look at us, no matter what district you represent, look at us as you would your district. What if all of us were sitting in this seat and we were in your district and we were coming up here asking you not to do this in your district? Please vote as if we were in your district, not it was somebody else's problem. Not saying you would, but guys, you know, change is coming. We all know that. And I don't think that we have entrepreneurs, business owners, teachers, former teachers, CPAs, government employees. We're not a bunch of backwoods hicks. Just because we own goats, just because we own cows. And I have to say that I thought that the proponent's attorney was disrespectful, okay? And there's no place for that here, okay? I think we all want what's best for the county. I think we all want to see development. That's not the question. The question is, where should these developments go? When they put up the graphic that showed all of these developments that are in progress, I think every single one of them, other than one, was the St. Martin School District. Not the Van Cleve School District. This development is going to be in the Van Cleve School District. Okay, we have not had the growth. We have not added the classrooms in Van Cleve that they've added in St. Martin. St. Martin has that well, it's not brand new anymore, but brand new high school with a swimming pool, and they're accommodating all this growth. It's close to Washington Avenue. That's where your corridor is, Washington Avenue. 57, there's some businesses there, but it's still mainly a rural area, even on Highway 57, south of the big downtown of Van Cleve and north of the big town of Van Cleve, okay? It's rural, it's a rural community. So please, respectfully, I ask you to consider those things and consider the fact that other than the developers, one other person spoke up for this, and they're a real estate agent. And they have tough jobs too, right? Those of you that are not in districts that are country, okay, I want you to stop and think about how many homes are sitting in Moss Point for sale. How many homes are sitting in Pascagoula for sale? When we're looking at the county as a whole and developing and housing people in the county as a whole, what's the need of this? You don't have to put it on that piece of property. There's acreage everywhere. There are empty houses in all of these places, okay? So please consider voting no. Please be respectful of Mr. Beausarge and his constituents as you would be to your own. And again, I thank y'all so much for your service. I know y'all hear it, but we do appreciate it. We do.
Thank you.
The fellow behind you, he lives there. Come on up.
How y'all doing now? My name is Richard Taylor. I live at 8050 Shady Rest Road. Long story short, in 1997, I got out of the military. My wife out of the military. Her father retired down here at Kieser. We knew we wanted to have some property, find a place to live. We searched. She said she graduated St. Martin. We found a 20-acre spot there. It happens to be right across where you guys are trying to subdivide. Anyways, it was all under wetlands. We had to hire a wetland surveyor and paid him about $1,500 back in '97 to overturn 1 acre to build our house on it. We have that creek. That creek actually comes on my back acre, and it does swell when it rains a whole bunch, and it will surround my house, but it doesn't get into my house, but it does swell. I never thought anybody would be able to build in there where you guys are trying to build because it's so low. When I was driving around there, I noticed somebody had some heavy equipment on that property. I didn't know that you could put equipment on that property without a wetland surveyor. I couldn't do that to my property without having a wetland surveyor. That was my dream, to move in the country. I do chainsaws, tractors, guns. I enjoy the wildlife out there. I manicure it. I work hard for it. That's 20 acres out there that I work for. When you move this subdivision, if you put a subdivision, I'm going to be dealing with everybody's trash down that creek. I'm going to be dealing with everybody's pets down that creek. I'm going to be dealing with everybody's stuff that comes with it. We moved to the country to live in the country, to be away from this. If I wanted to live in town, I would have moved in town. I would have moved around a subdivision. When you go up Highway 57, they're doing all that building on the right hand of 57. That's perfect for subdivisions, for people that want to go to Ingalls. That's perfect. Not out here. Out here, this is more country. People want to shoot their guns. People want to raise their kids and have four-wheelers and horses and stuff. So what happens if you put these people here and then there's conflict? What happens if all their pets start attacking wildlife? We're not used to that. We came up here to live a dream of having property and a place to stretch our legs, not live around other people. If we wanted to do that, we would have found a subdivision somewhere in town. Either way, I appreciate it. Please give it a second look. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate it. Come on up, then I'll ask you when you're No.
Good afternoon. My name is Amy Mohedin, 1219 Monticello Boulevard. I just want to, give a little bit of context. There is growth happening in Harrison County, Jackson County, and the Harrison County Board of Supervisors and the Harrison County Planning Commission have faced nearly identical dilemmas in the previous couple of weeks. A few months ago, the Board of Supervisors of Harrison County actually denied a subdivision because the constituents did not want it. A few weeks ago off Fire Tower Road near the new Buc-ee's, the Planning Commission unanimously denied a subdivision in an A1 type of district because the people felt like that was impacting their quality of life. So there's a really tight trade-off between subdivision growth, which is generally considered very good for a community, and the needs of the constituents who have invested mostly their life savings in their particular single-family residential property. Once again, that's where most Americans have their investments, is in that one property. So these people have hedged their bets that, this is my house, this is my land, and nothing's going to change. So to change the zoning on this particular piece of property has to meet an evidentiary bar of evidence called clear and convincing evidence. And there's some very interesting questions that the board brings up about what is the definition of neighborhood and how do situations like the road impact whether that meets the evidentiary burden of proof. So I want to give two cases from the Mississippi Supreme Court and the Mississippi Court of Appeals. There was a case in 2007 called Cockrell versus Panola County Board of Supervisors, and they were debating on what's the meaning of neighborhood. They don't give a strict definition of what neighborhood is, but this case was somewhat similar. It was in an agricultural zone. And it says properties that immediately adjoin parcels of land. That is what they elaborate. They don't define it. Once again, it depends on the context of the case, but in their elaboration, properties that are immediately adjoin the parcels of land to be rezoned are considered neighborhood. parcels that are 0.5 miles away do not constitute neighborhood. So I submitted last night to the record that shows that yellow R1 development, the midpoint from there to the midpoint of this proposed rezoning is slightly greater than 0.5 miles, just to give an even greater perspective on this. So if that R1 development is considered the neighborhood, it's already too far, and subsequently too, it's already considered an existing use. If that neighborhood had been rezoned about a year ago, that'd be much more specific to this case, but since that zoning was in 2008, that is considered an existing use and cannot be considered change in the character of the neighborhood. That is just change in the neighborhood. So that R1 district itself cannot be considered as a case. And the second case was a case called Collins versus City of Goshen, and that was at the Appeals Court in Mississippi in 2010, and that was litigated by the lead counsel, Amy St. Pei, where they tried to rezone an R1 to R2 to bring in condos in Goshen. And one of the contextual factors they bring about is that Martin Bluff Road was widened from a 2-lane to a 4-lane. So what I want to say is that changes in road conditions contemplated by the comprehensive plan will not then be considered as change in the character of the community. So if there's any proposed road changes, and if those are contemplated in the comprehensive plan, they will not be considered a factor of whether there's a change in the character of the community. Once again, I don't have any skin in the game here. I'm just saying that it's best if these people have invested their lives and their properties, and I guess we should all try to focus and stick to as much of the law as we all possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Does anyone else that'd like to come up for our call on these folks again down front? All right. Mr. Odell, did you want to come up? Okay.
All right, I noticed again from the developer's presentation that there was a lead with need that I described earlier. And that need is described certainly from a developer standpoint, but that's as opposed to a change in character of the neighborhood, which is the overall initial criteria and the most important thing. I covered that there are 1,824 single-family lots in the works, mostly at the preliminary plat stage. There was some discussion from the developer's standpoint about that. I wanted to just flesh that out a little bit more. Those are Admiral's Landing, Phase 1A, which a final plat was approved in May 2025. That was for 44 single-family residential lots. There was a Phase 1B of that, 64 single-family residential lots. There's an Alexis Crossing, Alexix Crossing. The preliminary plat was approved in April 2023. It's 19 single-family lots. There's Graceful Falls Bryce Road. It's not yet been approved, but it's been applied for. Sketch has been applied for. There's 65 single-family residential lots in that. Hillcrest Estates, Phases 6 and 7 on Old River Road. Preliminary plat was approved in June 2024. It's 28 single-family lots. Ramsey Farms, Jim Ramsey Road subdivision. This is the large one, 1,421 lots. The sketch was approved in 2020. Phase 1 received a preliminary plat extension in 2024. Phase 1 is 550 single-family residential lots. That whole subdivision is 4 phases proposed. Finally, there's Sand Hill, that's south of Old Fort Bayou, west of Eglin Road. A preliminary plat was approved in 2023, and that's 183 single-family residential lots. I gave the total earlier of 1,824 lots that are there in the works. Regarding delineation of the neighborhood, it's not out 4 miles. This neighborhood is quite cellular. Anyone who goes to it realizes it's very, you know it when you're there. What's the neighborhood? It's Old Fort Bayou. It's on both sides of the road at that particular location. The same as to Antioch. You go very far down Antioch. I don't know whether any of that's the same neighborhood. It's definitely the same character, but that, the neighborhood does not go out any number of miles or a half of a mile. It's like I said, very cellular. The claims that the property is in the path of growth do not address any criteria, critical criteria for rezoning change, for zoning change. Lot size proposed is irrelevant to zoning change. R1 allows 4.5 units per acre. Density is determined by units per acre. The developer's spokesperson referred to purported change, quote, in the area, as opposed to in the neighborhood. Neighborhood is the issue, not area. Area could be anything. There are no stores in this neighborhood. If you need milk, you have to either leave the neighborhood or milk the cow. This decision is the board's and the board's alone. It's not the planning commission's. There's de novo reviews. I understand your review is de novo. You make your decision based on the record presented here today, which includes a transcript of what went before the board, admittedly. But it also has much more. And persons are represented by council. More people are here. It's your decision to make. Claims that inevitable growth is coming is all the more reason to make decisions within Jackson County zoning ordinance and comprehensive plan. Once again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Odell. We appreciate it. Marcus?
Yes, sir.
Anything else?
No, sir, that's all I have unless you have some questions.
I don't.
All right. Hey, before I make my recommendation, there's a few things I want to clear up. Number one, Osprey Landing was approved before my time. I've been on this board since 2016. It was approved in 2008, so I had nothing to do with that. Okay. Number two, the proposed exit ramp at or interchange at Old Fort Bayou and I-10 is something that we've been working on for at least 10 years. So we've been working on it for 10 years. It ain't like it's going to happen tomorrow, believe me. But the reason for that is 50's a death trap, okay? I mean, it is totally and I can't consciously not come up with another alternative to get people off the interstate like where you live. Why should you have to go through the death trap of exit 50 to get over to Old Fort Bayou Road when you could get on Old Fort Bayou Road from I-10 and not have near the issues with the traffic that you got on exit 50. And exit 50 is only going to get worse. Okay, so the plan for the I-10 Old Fort Bayou interchange is for safety purposes. I don't care if another resident comes in. It's for the safety of the existing residents that we have now. Okay, you know, a lot of y'all don't know. I was a deputy sheriff here in this county for 16 years before I became supervisor. And traffic safety, them two guys will tell you over there, were probably my most important issues with my time at the sheriff's office. Not only catching the bad guys, which I was pretty good at, traffic and safety was my main concern. I fought to get radar in this county for 16 years. I worked at the sheriff's office, and I'm still working on it today as your supervisor, trying to get radar in this county because I feel like it's very important for the safety of our citizens in the unincorporated part of this county is to be able to regulate speed so that there's some kind of safety factor for our citizens. So, and now the proposed, there again, it's proposed, connector from Highway 57 and Gaucher Van Cleve Road over to Old Fort Bayou. There again, that's a safety issue. We need more connectivity in this county, on our roads. And we might not have the biggest roads, but we need more, in my opinion, y'all tell me if I'm wrong, we need more connectivity in our roads in this county. And right now, we depend on one or two roads to get us through this county, and we need more roads to get us through this county. So therefore, that was my idea, and it was my idea to do a study, to do a traffic study to see if we could connect where Gaucher Van Cleve is going to be running into the new 57 and take it over to Old Fort Bayou Road, because personally, Humphrey Road is about had it. Poor old Humphrey Road got beat up so bad during this construction that I don't even know if I'm ever going to be able to fix it right like it needs to be. So we need another connector, and if y'all say we don't, then I'll shelve the plans today. But y'all live in that area, and I think you probably see what I see when you're dealing with Humphrey Road. So, so I want to clear those factors up since I have all y'all's attention, all right? I want to clear those speculation, rumors, whatever's out there. So, that being said, I'm going to make a recommendation that we overturn the Planning Commission's recommendation and deny the R1 zoning request for that area. And that's my recommendation.
Okay.
I don't think it meets the qualifications for a zoning change. One little subdivision doesn't impact a zoning change. Now, another court might prove me wrong, but I don't think it does. So I don't think this area is ready for this yet. That's my recommendation.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
I'll
That's my motion.
Okay.
That's my motion, I'm sorry.
I have a motion by Mr. Beausarge. I have a second by Mr. Ross. All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
I oppose.
Okay. All right. It passes over by a vote of 4-1. And so Planning Commission's recommendation has been turned down, folks. All right. That's the end of it, but thank all of you for being patient with us. It's hard to do these things. It is. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
All right. Huh? Yeah.
Hey, I think you can hear more out there than I can.
Thank y'all.
Thank y'all. Hey, buddy. Hey, Jim. So he lives there, Crow's Nest, that road we looked at for that easement stuff.
Go into a compromise.
Yeah. So they don't have an easement.
We should approve it and let the court decide rather than all this emotion.
We don't have one. Yeah.
Y'all have it, that's gonna be appealed.
That
They can appeal,
ain't-
yeah. That's what. Oh, I didn't say that.
R3 now. They're gonna go back. But you just what you talking. Yeah, I come back and say 8 yeah. You come back and say that now. Instead of that all woman, you come back and say this. All this.
Yeah, he knows, Joe knows that.
He wants you to keep your animals. You can keep everything.
But what are you gonna do in 10 years or 5 years from now when half or more of us have gone, and then here comes another developer, boom, boom, rubber stamp, boom, R1.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna appeal and you may not win.
I was wondering, he's a cute little fellow. Research it to see if there's anything we can do.
Oh, that's your little, so that's your little, okay.
Yeah. I wished I could know what everybody was trying to approve, but.
He's a good-looking little fella. Yeah.
Not that we have, so it has to. He's the road manager. No, he is the boss. I'm his boss. He's the boss.
There should be any development at all.
It was a good day.
Oh, God. I love him to death.
And that's not your problem. I agree. Well, y'all did a good job.
Road register, yeah.
Thanks.
That's all right. I gotta go.
You wanna go into closed session again?
I'm running an hour late for a meeting, so.
Folks, we're getting
Ready to move back into closed session, executive session. Thank y'all for being here.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. Sheriff wants to block.
Oh, yeah,
And then I'll stop
with this, I can stop with
Stuff on consent
that.
agenda.
If you're out of time, that's what I do. And then I
Yeah. All right. Could I get a motion to move back into closed session?
so moved.
Have a motion by Mr. Morris, I will second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All right.